The black medicine's ability to stop pain was incredibly amazing, and it applied a cooling sensation to a wound. Tang Zhou looked up at Ren Xiaosu and said in shock, "Is this really the type of medicine boss usually takes?" Luolan grew angry and snapped, "Will you die if you don't speak? Shut up! Which of the wounded knows how to drive?" Ren Xiaosu interrupted them. "If y'all don't wanna die, get in the truck quickly and let's get out of this place." Everyone stayed quiet. A wounded soldier who could still move struggled to get up and climbed into the driver's seat of the transport truck. Ren Xiaosu frowned and said to Luolan, "Can you drive instead? He might die while driving with the shape he's in." Luolan said helplessly, "I don't know how to drive." "You don't know how to drive?" Ren Xiaosu said with some disbelief, "You're such a big shot in the stronghold, but you don't even know how to drive. There's no relation between being a big shot and knowing how to drive, right?" Luolan said in a speechless manner, "Oh, wait, it is related. It's because I don't need to drive myself when I go out, so I didn't need to learn how to drive." Ren Xiaosu had no time to argue with him right now. "Hurry up and get into the truck." In the Qing Consortium's records, Ren Xiaosu was just a relatively stronger refugee. Su Xianchu was the one who was supposedly the most dangerous of all. When the truck passed the spot where Ren Xiaosu and Chen Wudi had killed the experimentals, Luolan even counted how many there were. A total of 3 experimentals had been killed, including the one that pounced on the off-road vehicle. Logically, Ren Xiaosu would not have the ability to do this. Luolan suddenly recalled that the young man next to Ren Xiaosu looked a little familiar. But he could not remember who it was since he was still in a state of shock. Soon after, the truck drove over to Xiao and company. Ren Xiaosu's head poked out from the back of the military transport truck. He said, "Hop in." Zhang Wu stood there and watched Yan Liuyuan and company climb in the truck. She said hesitantly, "Can you let us in as well? Or just let the students get in? There's no need to worry about me." As Zhang Wu believed they were not related in any manner to Ren Xiaosu and his group, it would only take a word from him to determine whether they would be allowed into the truck. She knew she had to make this request. Ren Xiaosu looked at Zhang Wu for a bit, then said, "That's what I intended all along. Thank you. Thank you very much." Zhang Wu got excited and urged the students, "Everyone, hurry up and get into the truck. Remember to thank him for saving our lives." The group of students climbed into the back of the truck and saw it was more than large enough for everyone to sit in. Only Luolan, who was sitting in the corner, kept grumbling softly, "Isn't this supposed to be my truck? Why did it seem like Ren Xiaosu was making most of the decisions here?" But Luolan had to bow out. He realized at this moment that Ren Xiaosu had an absolute advantage over the people in the group. When Ren Xiaosu was giving treatment to Tang Zhou's group, he deliberately took away all their weapons. Every student who climbed in would say a few words of thanks to Ren Xiaosu. He found he gained more than 20 gratitude tokens in just a short time. The students were all sincerely grateful to him. Sometimes, Ren Xiaosu thought it might the teacher, Zhang Wu, who had influenced them to be this way. As just a normal person caught in the disaster, this female teacher had displayed the most glorious aspect of human nature. Ren Xiaosu, who lived in the chaotic town, felt somewhat envious. By now, Ren Xiaosu had earned 56 gratitude tokens from everyone, including the gratitude tokens Tang Zhou, Luolan, and their soldiers gave. The gratitude tokens he reaped for this side quest came in much quicker than the previous one. When everyone got into the truck, it started moving again. Everyone was sitting quietly. Everyone would feel different emotions after such a close brush with death. Only after near-death encounters would people yearn to live. Xiao and Yan Liuyuan took out some food from their bags and handed it to Ren Xiaosu and Chen Wudi. They knew Ren Xiaosu and Chen Wudi needed food to replenish their strength after the battle. The others swallowed hard when they saw the food, but no one dared to ask for a share. Even Luolan did not say anything. But all of a sudden, Luolan's eyes flashed as he gave Chen Wudi a look. He finally remembered who he was. "Aren't you that lunatic from 3rd Psychiatric Hospital?" Luolan sat up straight. "Your name is, yes, your name is Chen Wudi." As the actual controller of the stronghold, how could Luolan not know about the existence of No. 3 Psychiatric Hospital? Moreover, all of the information on the supernatural beings who had been detained would be reported back to him. The content of the information was meticulously detailed and would even include their daily life, words spoken, and behavior displayed. Even for the Qing Consortium, supernatural beings were an extremely important resource. Whether they had been made use of or studied upon, the Qing Consortium could not ignore the existence of such people. Luolan figured out something at this moment: who exactly had killed the experimentals. However, he was only seeing what Ren Xiaosu wanted him to see. Chen Wudi looked at Luolan. He had not really taken a careful look at Luolan earlier on. In addition, Luolan's face was stained with yellow blood at that time. Only after he had wiped his face clean did Chen Wudi finally recognize Luolan. "It's you, Ben Boerba 1. Ben? Ben, my ass." Luolan grew heated. He had read Journey to the West before, all right? "You lunatic, don't spout nonsense. Who the fucking hell is Ben Boerba?" Ren Xiaosu gave Luolan a glance. He remembered that whenever Chen Wudi was about to hit someone, he would always assign a demon name to them. Chen Wudi looked at Luolan unhappily. "Please address me as the great sage in the future. On top of that, I'm not a lunatic." Luolan snapped. "No lunatic would admit they're crazy. You say you're the great sage who protects his masters so you people can go to the Western paradise to obtain the Buddhist scriptures? In that case, you must first have a master, right? So where is your master?" It fell silent in the vehicle. Then, Ren Xiaosu looked at Luolan and said, "I'm his master." Wang Fugui said, "I'm Pigsy." Wang Dalong's gaze kept wandering back and forth between Wang Fugui and Ren Xiaosu. He hesitated for a few seconds before saying, "I'm Friar Sand." Luolan was confused. Just how many mentally ill people were there in the truck? Luolan was dumbfounded. "Are you serious?" Suddenly, the soldier in the driver's seat shouted, "We have a situation up ahead." After that, Ren Xiaosu heard a sharp braking sound. It was as though the driver had come across an unbelievable sight. "What's going on?" Ren Xiaosu asked in a serious tone. "There are a few cars ahead," the driver answered. "No, there are a few damaged cars ahead of us. It looks like they came from the direction of Stronghold 109. After hearing what the driver said, many of those in the truck were startled. "How could there be cars around here? All of you, stay in the truck." Ren Xiaosu turned to Chen Wudi and said, "Wudi, get out with me and look." The truck was already stationary. After jumping off the back of the truck, Ren Xiaosu discovered Luolan had also jumped down with them. The three of them slowly advanced towards the damaged cars. But before they even got close, Ren Xiaosu could smell blood in the air. Just as the driver had mentioned, 3 cars were blocking the road up ahead. They were all badly damaged and dripping with blood. "Be careful," Ren Xiaosu said. As he spoke, he inspected the nearby pavement to see what on earth could have attacked the convoy. "Strange," Luolan said in surprise, "these are indeed vehicles from Stronghold 109, but why did they send them out at this hour? And they were even headed in the direction of Stronghold 113. At present, Luolan had no idea that Qing Zhen had threatened the Stronghold 109 overseer. Lu Yuan, who was the overseer of that stronghold, had no choice but to hold off the pressure from the Li Consortium and send out a small group of private troops to search for Luolan's whereabouts. However, they ran into an accident. The 3 cars were parked in a crooked manner on the road. The trio of Ren Xiaosu, Chen Wudi, and Luolan did not see any bodies and were only greeted by a trail of blood that led into the depths of the dark wilderness. The bloodstains had already dried. Judging by the color, Ren Xiaosu deduced that the battle must have taken place around half a day ago. Wait a minute. Ren Xiaosu noticed a strand of white fur on the ground. Following, his expression turned to one of great shock. This is the fur of a wolf. Ren Xiaosu retreated with Chen Wudi. He finally realized what the bloodstains leading into the wilderness meant. It was the blood of the victims as they got dragged off in the mouths of the wolves. What were the wolves doing here half a day ago? But Ren Xiaosu didn't think too much. He just wanted to get back to the truck and get out of here. Wait a second for me. Luo Lan whispered. Ren Xiaosu watched him jog all the way over to the three cars. It seemed that he was looking for something in them. A second later, Luo Lan took out a device Ren Xiaosu hadn't seen before. I found it. When the three of them returned to the truck, Ren Xiaosu asked, what were you searching for in their cars? Hehe, Luo Lan chuckled. A satellite phone. I hope the pin on this hasn't been changed from the original 1111, or I won't be able to use it. We're going to have to take a gamble. Ren Xiaosu examined it. So this was what the legendary satellite phone looked like? But what was that pin Luo Lan mentioned? Ren Xiaosu had never even remotely heard of it before. When the truck started moving again, Luo Lan said in surprise after keying in 1111 on the satellite phone, it works. Right after, he dialed another series of numbers with a sense of familiarity. He had memorized this number a long time ago. Who are you calling? Ren Xiaosu asked. My little brother, Luo Lan replied and then waited patiently for the call to connect. Suddenly, a man's voice could be heard on the other end. Hello, who is this? I'm Luo Lan. Get my little brother on the line. Luo Lan said in delight. Very quickly, someone else spoke on the phone. Where are you? I'm trying to escape. I can probably get to Stronghold 109 in a day and a half at the latest, Luo Lan replied. How is everything on your side? Have you made it out of the Jing Mountains yet? On the other end, Qing Zhen paused and said, I'm still in the Jing Mountains. Su Xianchu, God fucking damn you. The call volume of the satellite phone was a little loud. Ren Xiaosu felt a little guilty after hearing what Qing Zhen said. He knew exactly why Qing Zhen was still stuck in the Jing Mountains. He was the one who slashed all of their vehicles' tires. Apparently reining in his emotions, Qing Zhen asked calmly, whose phone are you calling from? Have Liu Yuan's men picked you up? Only then did Luo Lan realize the three cars were sent out by Liu Yuan under Qing Zhen's orders. He answered, something happened to Liu Yuan's men along the way. I found this satellite phone in one of their cars. Qing Zhen did not care about what happened to Liu Yuan's men. He thought for a while and said, reorganize yourselves once you get to Stronghold 109, and don't return to the Qing Consortium for the time being. Why? Luo Lan was taken aback but reacted quickly. Have those old fogies of the board decided to punish you? They're just going to put me under house arrest in Stronghold 111, Qing Zhen said in a relaxed tone. But a lot of people have been very unhappy with you. If you go back now, you might receive a heavier punishment. Since they don't know you're still alive, you should stay at Stronghold 109 for the time being. Okay, Luo Lan acknowledged in a low voice. By the way, Qing Zhen said, when you get to Stronghold 109, tell Liu Yuan to arrest Ren Xiaosu, Su Xianchu, Yang Xiaojun, and Luo Xinyu. I suspect these four people might have headed there after escaping from the Jing Mountains. After all, Stronghold 111 and 109 are the nearest to the Jing Mountains. Luo Lan gave an embarrassed glance at Ren Xiaosu. Ren Xiaosu is right next to me. Qing Zhen was silent for a while, then asked in bewilderment, you've caught him already? Luo Lan got even more embarrassed. You might not believe it when I say this, but based on the current circumstances, I'm probably the one who's been caught. Qing Zhen was speechless. Ren Xiaosu looked calmly at Luo Lan, who was stressed a great deal, as he quickly sought to explain it was Ren Xiaosu who saved him. He would probably have died if not for that action. Qing Zhen finally understood what had happened. Qing Zhen said from the other end, "Tell him we'll forget all the unpleasantness between him and our Qing consortium. On top of that, I, Qing Zhen, now owes him a favor and a life. They want to enter Stronghold 109 and become legal residents there," Luo Lan said. "You can speak directly to Lu Yuan." Qing Zhen did not seem too concerned about this matter. Phew! Ren Xiaosu heaved a sigh of relief. The name of the Qing consortium had been weighing on his mind recently. It was quite terrifying to be on the radar of such a huge corporation. Who in this era would be willing to go against a corporation that controlled over 20 strongholds? Of course, Ren Xiaosu was even more determined now to not let Qing Zhen find out he was the one who slashed all of their vehicles' tires that night. Just based on how Qing Zhen had sworn at Su Xianchuo earlier, Ren Xiaosu got the feeling this matter wasn't over yet. But Ren Xiaosu remembered what Qing Zhen just said. He wondered where Yang Xiaojun would go after escaping from the Jing Mountains. Would it be to Stronghold 109 or Stronghold 111? Or perhaps somewhere even further away? Since there were limitations to Luo Xinyu's power to travel through the shadows, Yang Xiaojun and she couldn't have gone too far, right? Ren Xiaosu glanced at Yan Liuyuan and Xiaoyu. Everyone heard the conversation between Luo Lan and Qing Zhen. At this very moment, there was visible excitement in both Ren Xiaosu's and Yan Liuyuan's eyes. They understood they were no longer going to be refugees. From this moment onward, they would become legal residents of Stronghold 109. As for how Luo Lan and Qing Zhen would convince the Li Consortium and Stronghold 109's overseer, that would be up to them. After all, the corporations had business dealings with one another all the time, so they would have to give each other some face. From Qing Zhen's tone, it felt like it wasn't a particularly difficult matter to handle. Nearby, Wang Fugui let out a sigh and said softly, "Some issues can be extremely difficult for us to handle but are only a matter of words for people in their world." Luo Lan said, "If we promise you something, our Qing consortium will see it gets done. Would a large organization need to lie to a few refugees like you?" All of a sudden, Wang Fugui asked Luo Lan, "Xiaosu saved your life, isn't that right?" "Yeah," Luo Lan said in a surprised manner. "Boss Luo is a big shot," Wang Fugui said as his eyes revealed a certain shrewdness. "Since your life is so valuable, it would not be enough to just get us into the stronghold. If this matter gets out, other people will feel that the Qing consortium is being stingy." When Wang Fugui escaped from town with Ren Xiaosu, he had explicitly expressed to Ren Xiaosu the value he could bring to the group. Now was finally the time to show it. In reality, Wang Fugui knew all about his own shortcomings. He had never seen much of the world before and would appear very crude by bargaining with a big shot like Luo Lan. In fact, Luo Lan might even be mentally mocking him for daring to ask for help when he was not qualified to do so. But that didn't matter to him. Wang Fugui had to help Ren Xiaosu obtain the most favorable conditions to the best of his abilities. For this reason alone, he was willing to be shameless. From the conversation between Qing Zhen and Luo Lan, Wang Fugui realized that obtaining legal resident statuses in the stronghold was no big deal for these big shots. So he wondered if they could get even more out of them. "What else do you all want?" Luo Lan relaxed in the cargo bed and looked at Wang Fugui. "But you had better not make unreasonable demands." Wang Fugui felt hopeful at the words. He said, "We want a shop. The Qing consortium must have a lot of properties in Stronghold 109, so it shouldn't be a problem to get us a shop." Luo Lan downplayed, "My life isn't worth as much as one shop." Old Wang was a little taken aback. Luo Lan was being rather shameless if he put it that way. As a refugee, Wang Fugui could be shameless. But how could a big shot of the Qing consortium behave so shamelessly as well? But Wang Fugui didn't know that the most shameless people in the world were actually those who belonged to the organizations. Otherwise, it would not have been possible for them to make an organization in the first place. Wang Fugui asked Luo Lan, your younger brother just said he owed Ren Xiaosu a favor and a life, right? What is it you're trying to say? Luo Lan was feeling speechless. Is the favor and the life that your younger brother mentioned worth a shop? Wang Fugui asked. Luo Lan went quiet for a long time before answering, yes. Although he could be shameless about himself, it was not so when Qing Zhen's name was mentioned. I'll prepare a simple shop for you all. Luo Lan said, but our Qing consortium does not owe you anything more after that. Okay. Ren Xiaosu decisively accepted it. This would be a stable income stream for them in the stronghold. Even if they didn't use the shop to do business, the rent they could obtain from it would probably be enough for their daily living expenses. Furthermore, he had promised old Wang he would reopen a grocery store for him. However, Wang Fugui still seemed unsatisfied. He said to Luo Lan, how much do you think the lives of your 5 subordinates are worth? Luo Lan got annoyed. Couldn't you have finished saying it in one shot? All right, I'll give you a big shop that's in a good location. Don't ask me for anything more, or I'll die here right in front of you. Wang Fugui wanted to go even further, but Ren Xiaosu tugged at him. It was best to stop asking since they had gotten what they wanted. If they really made Luo Lan angry, he might just go back on his words after they got to the stronghold. At that time, Ren Xiaosu and the others would not be able to do anything about it. Ren Xiaosu had chosen to save Tang Zhou and his soldiers because he realized Luo Lan was a little sentimental. Luo Lan would feel grateful to him after he saved them. Ren Xiaosu suddenly saw Chen Wudi, who was seated opposite him, looking at Luo Lan in a hostile manner. It was as though he wanted to subdue evil right now. He noticed some changes in Chen Wudi's appearance, but he could not immediately tell what the difference was. Wait a minute. Ren Xiaosu asked, Wudi, is that a golden circlet on your head? Where did it come from? Before this night, he was quite certain Chen Wudi did not have a golden circlet on his head. Ren Xiaosu suspected this item had also materialized out of Chen Wudi's imagination. But unlike the golden hooped rod, this golden circlet was different as it didn't actually disappear. The golden circlet was given to me by the Bodhisattva. Master, don't you know that? Chen Wudi looked like he expected this to be common knowledge. I do, Ren Xiaosu answered. But that's not what I was asking. Ren Xiaosu intended to make up an excuse to get past his questioning. After all, his current role was Master Santang, so how could he possibly not know where his disciple's golden circlet came from? Then, Chen Wudi looked at Ren Xiaosu seriously and asked, Master, do you still remember how to recite the headache spell? Ren Xiaosu nearly broken down. How am I supposed to know that spell? In the original text of Journey to the West, there was no mention of the specific contents of the spell when Guanyin 1 taught it to Tripitaka. Ren Xiaosu saw a sparkle of excitement in Chen Wudi's eyes as he anticipated what was about to come. Ren Xiaosu tested him by reciting, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers 1. Ah! Chen Wudi clutched his head and cried out, Master, stop it! Master, stop it! Ren Xiaosu sat there with his mouth agape. He thought to himself, Chen Wudi, you're playing along quite well. Ren Xiaosu realized that everyone else was giving him strange looks. Some students even sank deep into thought over this. This bodhisattva was probably some kind of comedian, right? Luo Lan felt like his intelligence had been greatly insulted. He could not understand why a lunatic like Chen Wudi would regard Ren Xiaosu as his master. If he had to believe that Ren Xiaosu, Chen Wudi, Wang Fugui and Wang Dalong were the reincarnations of Tripitaka and his disciples, he would rather kill himself by smashing his head here in the truck. The truck had been driving for dozens of kilometers before they slowly came to a stop. Luo Lan asked, Can we afford to take a break now? Won't the wolf pack catch up to us? Ren Xiaosu was reminded about the strangeness of the wolf's behavior. He gave it some thought before saying, Let's take a short rest. We only have one driver, so it won't be good if he gets exhausted. Besides, if the wolves come chasing after us, the vehicle probably can't outrun them if we keep driving. Actually, Ren Xiaosu was constantly wondering in his mind. He had previously thought that the wolves had not attacked the escapees only because they had gone back to what was now the ruins of Stronghold 113. But by the looks of it, it seemed the wolves had been keeping close to them all this while. There was even a time when the pack overtook their group. But why didn't the wolves attack the escapees? There was no logical explanation for it. Unless there was someone in the group the wolves were unwilling to attack. Footnotes. But when he reached the top of the hill, he was stunned. Ren Xiaosu did not really expect the wolves to be nearby. He saw the silvery wolf king standing in the wilderness and staring at him quietly. Even the wind seemed to have stopped blowing for it. But very surprisingly, Ren Xiaosu did not get the feeling the wolf king had any intention of attacking them this time. It just glanced at him quietly before turning around to run back into the wilderness. The Wolf King looked extremely strong and powerful. Using some of the bushes that it stood next to earlier as a reference, Ren Xiaosu was startled when he realized his estimation was not wrong. This Wolf King had grown to a size larger than a cow. Why? What motives did the wolves have in following them? Ren Xiaosu had thought something did not feel quite right. Although the wolves did not dare to pass through the canyon, Ren Xiaosu found they had been waiting there all along when he returned from the mountains beyond the canyon. At the time, Ren Xiaosu wondered if they bore a grudge against him after he had escaped from them the previous year. But now, it seemed like the situation was far more complicated than that. Whatever. Ren Xiaosu thought it was going well as long as the wolves did not attack them. As for what that reason might be, he had no intention of delving any deeper into it. He would be bidding farewell to the wilderness in another day or so. After that, he would be entering the stronghold he had always been dreaming of to live a life without fear or worry. Then their lives would start getting better with each passing day. Ren Xiaosu had promised Yan Liuyuan he would lead him to a comfortable life someday. When he returned to the vehicle, everyone had disembarked from the truck to stretch themselves. Although it was not too crowded inside the truck bed, there was still some discomfort from being stuck in it for an extended period. Wang Fugui approached Ren Xiaosu and said solemnly, "Thank you, Xiaosu. Thank you for taking me and my son with you into the stronghold." Gratitude received from Wang Fugui, +1. Ren Xiaosu looked at Wang Fugui and said, "You don't have to be so polite with me. We're not only going into the stronghold, we're also going to reopen your grocery store." Wang Fugui shook his head. "It won't be my grocery store but yours. Listen to me, Xiaosu. You've earned that grocery store in return for risking your life. It's enough for me to be your shopkeeper in the future. I have nothing more to ask for, except that you remember to give me a high salary." Ren Xiaosu was startled. He had not expected Wang Fugui to reject him when faced with such an enticing deal. While Wang Fugui continued thinking about how to persuade Ren Xiaosu said, feeling touched, "Okay, let's do it as you say." Wang Fugui was speechless. Ren Xiaosu was still the same shameless, money-loving young man he knew. But at this moment, Ren Xiaosu added, "You'll get a 30% share in the shop, and the money you get from selling those antibiotics will be yours to keep too." He was not exactly giving out shares to him for nothing. First of all, Ren Xiaosu did not have any talent in running a shop, while old Wang had been running one all his life. So Ren Xiaosu felt he should let the professional handle it so he could spend his time on other things. In fact, what Ren Xiaosu wanted to do now was not to earn money but to go to school. Luolan made use of this time to size up Chen Wudi while Ren Xiaosu was away. He was already quite familiar with Chen Wudi. Be it his daily routine or hobbies, someone had reported this information to him before. Luolan had been quite envious that his younger brother had a supernatural being for a bodyguard. It felt really nice to even just think about that. Unfortunately, the supernatural being had been serving in the military base under Qing Zhen's command. However, Luo Lan was not that lucky. And now, Luo Lan was starting to have such ideas again after finding out Chen Wudi was able to take on 3 experimentals all by himself. Chen Wudi was just a fool. As a big shot of the Qing consortium, couldn't he easily fool a fool? As Ren Xiaosu had never displayed his superpower in front of Luo Lan before, he was only a skilled and ballsy refugee in Luo Lan's eyes. What did he do to deserve such a powerful supernatural being like Chen Wudi as his follower? And it was even a master-disciple relationship too. Luo Lan was richer and more handsome than Ren Xiaosu. He was also an organization's big shot with power beyond imagination. A person like him should have a follower like Chen Wudi instead. Thinking of this, Luo Lan went up to Chen Wudi and chuckled. "Hey, Wudi, since your master is so poor, why don't you follow me instead?" Chen Wudi glanced at Luo Lan and said, "I don't want to talk to Benboerba." Luo Lan was annoyed. "Fucking Benboerba! Are you still not done with that yet? Just what is with a mentally ill Peron's train of thought? Can't it be a little more normal?" When Ren Xiaosu came back, he saw Luo Lan sitting right up against Chen Wudi. He smiled and said, "What, you wanna go with us to the Western Paradise to obtain the Buddhist scriptures too? If you really wanna, we're still missing a white dragon horse." "No, you don't look like white dragon horse." So saying, Ren Xiaosu turned his head and looked around. When he saw Wang Dalong, his eyes lit up. "We're still missing a carrying pole 1 and 2 baskets. So why don't you be the bamboo basket instead?" Luo Lan got so angry he turned around and left. He suddenly felt he was not crazy enough to get along with Ren Xiaosu and the others. Early the next morning, the truck was ready to set off again. This time, they were going to head straight for Stronghold 109. When their other vehicles broke down, they siphoned the gas from them into the other vehicles that were still working. As such, the gas in the truck's tank was more than enough to cover this leg of the journey. Ren Xiaosu started imagining what it would be like to live in the stronghold. He suddenly asked Zhongwu and her students, "What on earth is it like inside a stronghold?" Zhongwu thought back and said, "Students can attend lessons in the stronghold without worry. During their break, they can even play basketball and sweat it out in the schoolyard. When the girls see the boys they like, they will cheer for them." Actually, the teachers already know those students have developed feelings for each other, but they sometimes choose to turn a blind eye to it. Of course, the majority of the teachers will still choose to call the students' parents. Call their parents? Ren Xiaosu was stunned. Why would they call their parents? To tell the parents so they'll punish their children, Zhongwu said with a smile. Oh! Ren Xiaosu nodded. "Fortunately for me, I don't have parents." Zhongwu choked on her words as she did not know how to continue the conversation. But for some reason, she felt a little sad for him. So this young man had been living in the desolate wastelands in such manner with absolutely nothing to fall back on. Ren Xiaosu shouted, "Everyone, get into the truck. We're setting off." Then he saw Luo Lan bow 3 times in the direction of where they came from. He was doing that for the soldiers of the combat brigade who had died for him. Actually, Luo Lan had not shown any signs of exceptional sadness along the way thus far. It was as though he were still very optimistic about things. But when Ren Xiaosu saw this, he felt that Luo Lan was not showing his sadness simply because he did not want to appear weak. Upon hearing that, all of the people who were nodding off in the back of the truck were jolted awake. Everyone did not have it easy their entire journey here. There wasn't even a place for them to lie down for one day, and everyone was always in a state of anxiety and constant worry. What if the wolves or the terrifying experimentals caught up to them again? Even if there was a supernatural being like Chen Wudi around, he probably couldn't hold off so many experimentals, right? Although Ren Xiaosu told them they would be fine, everyone was still uneasy until the moment they finally saw human civilization again. An emotion welled up inside them. It was a kind of happiness that came after a brush with death. Naturally, some people were puzzled too. For example, Luo Lan and Zhang Wu wondered why Ren Xiaosu would make the judgment call that the wolves would not be attacking them again when they didn't even see him doing anything about it. Furthermore, the wolves really did not come to attack them. Zhang Wu had already experienced it so many times along the way. The young refugee made many decisions correctly as though he had prior knowledge. If she didn't have her students catch up with Ren Xiaosu in advance on the evening the experimentals attacked, they would have probably died there. During their escape, Yan Liuyuan, Xiaoyu, and the others in their group did not suffer much. The other escapees had not brought anything with them on their escape. Of all the escapees, only the 5 of them were carrying a full set of luggage, and it was clear they were well prepared. This made Zhang Wu envy Yan Liuyuan and the others. If Ren Xiaosu had led her and her students as well, they would probably have suffered a lot less. Of course, she knew that Ren Xiaosu did not have such an obligation to them. Furthermore, he had already helped her with many things, such as searching for food and letting them get into the truck. Zhang Wu knew full well it was due to Ren Xiaosu's credit that she and her students got to Stronghold 109 alive. She turned to the students and said, "Everyone, come and thank Ren Xiaosu. You should all know you're only alive because of what he did." The students looked at Ren Xiaosu. This refugee, the same age as them, had truly earned their genuine admiration. "Thank you. Thank you so much." Gratitude received from Xiegwangkan, +1. Gratitude received from Chinch, +1. Gratitude received from, Ren Xiaosu was on cloud 9. "You're all too polite, too polite." Within a minute, Ren Xiaosu suddenly said as he counted the number of people, "There are still 2 people who haven't thanked me yet." Hurry up and, Zhang Wu did not know whether to laugh or cry. Although she was very grateful to Ren Xiaosu, she sometimes felt that his brain might really be wired differently from others. The military transport truck drove on the road that cut through the center of town towards the stronghold's gate. Yan Liuyuan leaned out of the back of the truck and looked outside. "Bro, this place is just like our town." What he meant by just like probably referred to the shacks and living conditions in town. Ren Xiaosu used to think the sights in town were awful, but the same sights here felt warm and fuzzy to him now. He was a little different from the others. After venturing out to the Jing Mountains, he didn't even get to rest before he came back and encountered the disaster at the stronghold. It'd been half a month since he had gotten any proper rest. Even someone with an extremely strong will like him would feel worn out. Zhang Wu said hesitantly, "Did you guys used to live in a place like this?" Everyone in the stronghold knew there was a town outside, but they did not know what the town actually looked like. That was because not everyone could pass through the stronghold's gate as they wished. So Zhang Wu had thought the town was some dilapidated place with squat buildings. She had never expected there would be no buildings at all. The majority of the homes here were run down. So they had been living in a fairy tale heaven the entire time, while Ren Xiaosu and company lived in hell. Xiaoyu smiled and said, "But life was not that hard. Our Xiaosu was even a substitute teacher in town. If nothing had happened to the stronghold, he would probably have become the new teacher." Her words surprised Zhang Wu even more as she looked closely at Ren Xiaosu. Honestly, she only thought that Ren Xiaosu was capable. She did not expect he was even a teacher. In that instant, Ren Xiaosu's image in her head became even greater. This was the social status that came along with his social identity. If Ren Xiaosu were only a drug dealer, he would definitely not gain any respect from others. Grumpy, Luo Lan jumped out of the vehicle. The more he looked at Ren Xiaosu, the angrier he became. He was clearly just a refugee, yet he had a supernatural being as his disciple and even a beautiful female teacher with eyes only for him. He marched up to the gate in an awe-inspiring manner and shouted to the people at the gate, "Tell Lu Yuan to come out and see me." It seemed like the man at the gate was a town resident. He was stunned as he stared at Luo Lan. "Who is Lu Yuan?" Luo Lan's face darkened. He shouted, where's the town administrator? Get him out here. Ren Xiaosu also jumped out of the vehicle and immediately saw the figure of a town administrator. After all, the demeanor and attire of the town administrator were totally different from those of the refugees. Ren Xiaosu told him, "We came from Stronghold 113. This is Luolan of the Qing Consortium. Report this to your stronghold overseer." Ren Xiaosu then turned around to Yan Liuyuan and the others and said, "Y'all don't have to get out of the vehicle. We'll be driving straight into the stronghold." Zhang Wu was slightly taken aback, because Ren Xiaosu cast a glance at her when he spoke. She realized Ren Xiaosu was hinting something to her. Luolan had only promised to let the 6 of them into the stronghold. He didn't include Zhang Wu and her students. If someone made a fuss about it, Zhang Wu and her students might just end up refugees in the future. But right now, they had the backing of Luolan. Everyone just needed to remain in the truck while they entered the stronghold. No one could say a thing about it. The people of Stronghold 109 would probably just think the truck was carrying the Qing Consortium's people. Usually, they would check their IDs before allowing them into the stronghold, but Ren Xiaosu was going to gamble that Lu Yuan would not dare to check Luolan. The high and mighty stronghold overseers were poor bastards caught in between the various organizations at such a time. They wouldn't dare offend any of them. When Ren Xiaosu finished speaking, he got back into the truck to get some rest. Meanwhile, Luolan, Tang Zhou, and their soldiers waited outside for Lu Yuan to come out. The wait lasted an hour. For some reason, Ren Xiaosu always felt the way Luolan carried himself was extremely similar to that of his younger brother, Qing Zhen. In Ren Xiaosu's eyes, the cocky looks on their faces were exactly the same. It was just that Luolan always seemed to be a level below Qing Zhen. After all, Qing Zhen had been surrounded by a large number of combat troops, and he could feel the intimidating aura blow against his face, whereas when Ren Xiaosu saw Luolan for the first time, he was already in a pathetic state. Of course, Ren Xiaosu was still unaware he had flushed Qing Zhen's image down the drain. This was also the reason why Qing Zhen was so determined to arrest Su Xianxia by any means necessary. Ren Xiaosu immediately turned around and looked inside the gate. This was the first time he so strongly desired to have a clear look at the inside world. Stronghold 113's gate would often open as well, but Ren Xiaosu had always restrained himself from looking at what was inside. That was because there were good days and bad days in these times, and he was afraid he would end up constantly thinking about it if he saw what it was like on the other side. Yan Liuyuan had wanted to sneak a look inside, but he was stopped by Ren Xiaosu. At that time, Ren Xiaosu said he would definitely take Yan Liuyuan to live inside the stronghold in the future, but he didn't actually believe that himself. And now, they were going to be part of that world soon. When a large group of people came out of the stronghold, a handsome, middle-aged man strode forward. He smiled at Luolan in greeting. "A warm welcome to you, Boss Luo. Sorry for not welcoming you at the gate." However, Luolan's face darkened. "Is an apology enough for making me wait out here for so long?" Lu Yuan smiled and repeatedly apologized. "I immediately sent someone out to pick you up after receiving Boss Qing Zhen's instructions. However, I lost contact with them as well. Otherwise, I would have been waiting out here for you for a long time." Luolan did not say anything else and walked into Stronghold 109. He waved the truck in. "Drive in." All of a sudden, Lu Yuan said loudly, "Wait a minute, who are those people in the truck? Shouldn't they get out for inspection?" Not a second later, Luolan turned around and landed a loud slap on Lu Yuan's face. "Don't overstep your boundaries. How dare you try to conduct a spot check on our Qing Consortium's truck?" Everyone was stunned. This was Lu Yuan, the overseer of Stronghold 109. Ren Xiaosu was a little surprised. He didn't expect Luolan to have such a violent outburst. It wasn't until this moment that Luolan finally had the bearing of an organization's big shot like he had imagined. But in reality, he knew this was not Luo Lan's nature after spending some time with him on their way here. Rather, Luo Lan was just trying to protect himself with that appearance. He needed others to be afraid of him. It was no wonder that people in Stronghold 113 so revered Luo Lan when they heard his name. In reality, Ren Xiaosu did not know that the fate of Stronghold 113's overseer, Old Lu, had been decided by a word from Qing Zhen. He had already died on the way to Stronghold 178 after being exiled there. But Ren Xiaosu suddenly found Luo Lan to be quite interesting, as he was only doing this so they could get into the stronghold. There was nothing in the truck besides Ren Xiaosu's group of 6, as well as Zhang Wu and her 28 students. The middle-aged man who was slapped in the face stood there for a long while without saying a word. Luo Lan smiled ambiguously at him and said, "What's the matter, Lu Yuan? Have you forgotten your place?" Lu Yuan lowered his head. "No, I didn't forget. Boss Luo, please enter." He didn't even ask Luo Lan why the people he sent out did not come back with them. But that was not actually important to him. Ren Xiaosu sat in the truck and watched quietly. So this was the authority and power of an organization. At this moment, another few people came out of the stronghold and said respectfully to Luo Lan, "Boss Qing Zhen ordered us to wait here for you." Luo Lan raised his eyebrows. "You're my younger brother's men?" "Yes, sir." Luo Lan beamed. "All right, lead the way." After that, he turned to Lu Yuan and said, "Carry on with whatever you were busy with. I'll get someone to send you the ID information this evening. Print around 40 stronghold ID cards and send them over to us." "All right, I understand," Lu Yuan said politely. Luo Lan then got into the off-road vehicle that had been sent to pick him up. Ren Xiaosu watched from the shadows in the back of the truck as it slowly drove into the stronghold. Lu Yuan looked like he was thinking about something as he quietly stood outside the stronghold. When the vehicles got into the stronghold, Yan Liuyuan leaned out of the back of the truck and sighed. "Bro, the streets inside the stronghold are so clean. Bro, the buildings inside the stronghold are so tall. There were only one-story houses and no tall buildings in the town, but they could see buildings with 2 or 3 stories everywhere in here. Some of the taller buildings even had 5 or 6 stories." However, Ren Xiaosu wanted to tell Yan Liuyuan he had seen even taller skyscrapers in the abandoned city inside the Jing Mountains. They were so tall they looked like swords poking the sky. Having witnessed that sight, Ren Xiaosu realized the high-rise buildings in the stronghold didn't exactly seem that tall anymore. After all, human civilization had regressed a lot. Zhang Wu quietly looked at Yan Liuyuan as he got dazzled by the sights. But she did not find anything humor in this. She only felt that the life they were used to was way too different from what the refugees knew. "Bro, there are a lot of plants here inside the stronghold, and they can also be seen on both sides of the roads. Wait a minute, there's even a large meadow over there." Yan Liuyuan exclaimed. "That's a park." Zhang Wu explained to Yan Liuyuan, "The stronghold's residents can stroll there after dinner, and there are even some aunties who go dancing there at night. In this era, tape recorders are considered rare. So if any auntie has a cassette and a tape recorder to play music with, she becomes the most dazzling person on the dance team." Yan Liuyuan nodded. "Bro, look at that father and daughter sitting on the lawn. They're feeding each other food. What a loving scene. Wait, why have they started kissing?" Zhang Wu said with an odd expression on her face, "They aren't father and daughter." At this moment, a strange car sped past the truck. As it passed by, the engine made loud roaring sounds. A balding, middle-aged man was sitting in the car. Ren Xiaosu asked Zhang Wu, "Why doesn't that car have a roof?" Zhang Wu thought for a moment before answering, "That's what we call a convertible. It's a car that only the rich can drive and is also a status symbol inside the stronghold." Ren Xiaosu lamented, "How nice it is to be rich. Even their head is a convertible." Zhang Wu was stunned. She simply did not know how to respond. Ren Xiaosu finally understood that it was no wonder celebrities like Luo Xinyu existed inside the stronghold. So it was because the stronghold's residents were leading a much more luxurious life than them. These people neither had to face wild animals nor get drenched in sweat carrying buckets of coal out of the mine. They only needed to work decent jobs within the stronghold in order to earn their pay. The refugees outside the stronghold were like worker ants supporting over 100,000 queen ants. Ren Xiaosu had heard from Zhang Jinglan before that the refugees outside Stronghold 113 were considered few in number. In some other places, a large number of refugees would gather together to grow crops and work in manufacturing industries. There were even large human colonies entirely made up of refugees. Naturally, those large human colonies were also controlled by the organizations. All of a sudden, Ren Xiaosu saw several rail lines laid within the ground. What are these things? Those are trolley tracks. Zhang Wu said, the residents can take the streetcar to work and back home every day. In fact, Ren Xiaosu sometimes thought that the wilderness was getting more dangerous these days. Although Stronghold 109 was not as affected as Stronghold 113 by the terrible earthquake, what if something happened here as well someday? But the residents of the stronghold had never considered the fact that a disaster might happen and they would be left to fend for themselves. It seemed that all these problems had nothing to do with them and were only for the consortium to worry about. If something really happened, these stronghold residents would not survive in the wilderness. As the truck advanced, Yan Liuyuan kept looking out. However, some pedestrians in the stronghold had a kind of curious and sympathetic look in their eyes when they saw his dirty appearance. It was either a look of loathing or sympathy as they silently assumed this child was a poor thing. When Yan Liuyuan came into contact with these stares, the excitement in his eyes slowly faded away. Then he retreated into the back of the truck. He and Ren Xiaosu had never needed anyone's pity before since they didn't feel like they led a miserable life. Bro, why don't we go back to the town? Yan Liuyuan was rapidly starting to get uncomfortable here. Oh, come off it, Ren Xiaosu said. Pausing, he added, if we really can't get used to living in the stronghold, I'll find a way to go with you to live outside the stronghold. Okay. Yan Liuyuan nodded happily. Ren Xiaosu turned around and looked at Zhang Wu and her students. What plans do y'all have for the future? Ren Xiaosu's group did not have to worry about his group's livelihoods for the time being. After all, he had a lot of gold in his possession, and old Wang also brought along a lot of medicinal supplies as hard currency. They probably wouldn't starve to death in the stronghold in the short term. Moreover, they even took over a shop from the Qing consortium, which had also settled their living arrangements. The question put Zhang Wu in a dilemma, because there was no place for them to go. Tang Zhou smiled and said, you don't have to worry about this. We'll arrange for you guys to be admitted to school once you've received this stronghold's ID cards. Teacher Zhang Wu can still be a teacher, and the students can continue attending school. If you live in the school's dorm, you can even qualify for subsidies. You guys don't have to worry about anything regarding your livelihoods. Are y'all that kind? Ren Xiaosu said in surprise. This isn't about being kind. Tang Zhou said, since we went through a near-death experience, we're comrades. Our Qing consortium isn't so petty that we would not help with such small favors. But isn't this stronghold controlled by the Li consortium? Does your word carry any weight in here? Wang Fugui asked. The Li consortium wouldn't sacrifice their ties with us over such a trivial matter. Tang Zhou said with a smile, the matters between the corporations are sometimes very complicated and sometimes very simple. When there's no conflict of interest, everyone will remain on friendly terms with each other. Ren Xiaosu immediately understood that it was just a triviality for an organization to send several people to school. They weren't even worried about it. How much are the subsidies the school gives out to their students worth? Ren Xiaosu asked. 900 yuan per month. Tang Zhou wasn't too sure. Every stronghold is different. As long as the funds cover a student's monthly expenses, it's sufficient. Yan Liuyuan and I will attend school as well then. Ren Xiaosu said righteously, it's not about the money. We're just thirsty for knowledge. Dumbfounded, Tang Zhou stared at Ren Xiaosu. No, wait. Ren Xiaosu suddenly said, it's not just the two of us. Including Wang Fugui, Wang Dalong, Big Sister Xiaoyu and Chen Wudi, all 6 of us are looking forward to attending school. Tang Zhou looked at Wang Fugui in bewilderment. Isn't this man almost 50? You're saying he also wants to attend school? Can you really be any more shameless than that? Wang Fugui was even bewildered by what Ren Xiaosu had said, let alone Tang Zhou. I think we can forget about the others. Tang Zhou said in a hollow voice, we can make arrangements for you and Yan Liuyuan to attend school. Yan Liuyuan nearly cried. But I don't want to attend school either. Do you think you have a say in this matter? Ren Xiaosu glared at him. But at this moment, he saw a familiar figure outside the truck in his peripheral vision. When he turned to get a better look, he discovered the figure had vanished. Was it an illusion or did he really see something? Ren Xiaosu was a little puzzled. The familiarity struck him like a flash of lightning, coming and going just as fast. But don't be too happy yet. Tang Zhou said to Ren Xiaosu, since our Qing consortium and you don't owe each other anything else, this is an addition to our deal. So if you want us to help you with your enrollment to school, you'll have to give us something in exchange. With a smack, Ren Xiaosu slapped 2 small vials into Tang Zhou's hands as though he already knew. I know Fatty Luo wants this, so take these to him. Tang Zhou was speechless. You think you can address him as Fatty Luo? There were only 2 people in this world who could address Luo Lan as Fatty Luo and get away with it. One of them was Qing Zhen, the other was Zhang Jinglin. But Tang Zhou suddenly felt Ren Xiaosu might turn out to be the third such person. As the truck slowly rolled to a stop, Luo Lan's voice came from outside. Disembark. When Ren Xiaosu jumped out of the truck, Luo Lan told him, the shop on the left is what I've promised you. As this place is a prime location, you won't be making a loss if you start a business here. Looking around, Ren Xiaosu was surprised to find the street was full of shops and had a high volume of foot traffic. While Ren Xiaosu was looking around, the passers-by were looking curiously at him. However, everyone recognized the ginkgo leaf logo on the truck and knew he was one of Qing Consortium's people. What do you think? Ren Xiaosu looked to Wang Fugui for his opinion. It was not like Ren Xiaosu knew if this location was good. It's not bad. Wang Fugui nodded to indicate to Ren Xiaosu to accept the offer. He knew Luo Lan wasn't lying to them. There really was a lot of foot traffic as well as shops on this stretch of road. When it came to doing business, getting people in the door would mean making money. There's also a yard and several rooms in the back that's enough for you all to live in. The original business operation here was very similar to what you did, so I guess you got lucky. Luo Lan said nonchalantly, from now on, I, Luo Lan, don't owe you anything. As soon as he finished, he got into the vehicle with a very smug look on his face and left, leaving the 6 of them behind. After that, Tang Zhou said to Ren Xiaosu and the others, don't worry, I'll send someone to deliver you your stronghold ID cards and school admission applications this evening. Yan Liuyuan had already rushed into the shop in excitement. It was clear this shop used to be a traditional Chinese medicine clinic. Before Ren Xiaosu's group arrived, it was being run normally. After the Qing Consortium's people pulled out from running this shop, they did not take anything away. The place was already fully furnished with tables, chairs, benches, and a good supply of traditional Chinese medicine. Luo Lan had given this shop to them because he knew Ren Xiaosu had been the only doctor in town. So he thought Ren Xiaosu might want to reopen his clinic here. But Ren Xiaosu felt sad. As if he knew shit about medicine. At the back of this shop were 5 rooms, a kitchen, 3 bedrooms, and a toilet. After arriving at this stronghold, Ren Xiaosu didn't even know how to use the toilet when he saw one. The toilets in town were all pit latrines, while they could flush water directly into the sewers in the stronghold. Everyone finally learned how to use the toilet after trying it for a long time. There was a tap in the bathroom that nobody knew what it did at first. But the moment it was turned on, they could see clear water flowing out. Ren Xiaosu and the others were very surprised. They had never seen anything so magical before. It seemed the original owner of the shop used this tap as the source of their daily water consumption. Ren Xiaosu said, "It's no wonder the stronghold's residents are so clean. It's because they don't have to ration their water usage in the stronghold. In town, each person was allocated a fixed amount of water each day. No one could change that rule. Originally, there were still some wells in town. But those were sealed up by the stronghold for the reasons of preventing water theft and wasting of water. The 3 bedrooms were allocated as followed: Xiao would have one room for herself, Wang Dalong and Wang Fugui would be in another room, while Chen Wudi, Yan Liuyuan and Ren Xiaosu would take the remaining room. With this arrangement, everything was set. Although it seemed crowded for 6 people to live in, it was comfortable enough for Ren Xiaosu and the others. What kind of place did they used to live in? This was incomparable to that. The 6 of them carried small stools out into the backyard and sat down, with the first shareholder meeting being held in this simple a place. Wang Fugui spoke first. While we were tidying up the house, a few patients came to the shop and wanted to see the doctor, not knowing the shop changed owners. It seems the original shop's business was excellent and had a rather good reputation as well. Why don't we continue to operate the shop as is? But which of us knows medicine? Ren Xiaosu snapped. I don't, anyway. All I have is the black medicine. The refugees of Stronghold 113's town had suffered so much. For the past few years, there had only been 2 doctors in town, and they didn't even have any medical skills to speak of. But Ren Xiaosu felt he was better than that quack doctor, Yu Tong. At least his black medicine was really able to treat wounds. Actually, he could learn some medical knowledge for real since he had something as wonderfully magical as the palace. There had to be a proper hospital and doctors here in the stronghold. So Ren Xiaosu could use the skill duplication scrolls on an actual doctor this time. The previous situation would definitely not repeat itself again. But Ren Xiaosu was also wondering about something. Was it really necessary for him to waste a precious skill duplication scroll on medical skills? In fact, he felt deeply that his skill duplication scrolls were not enough after getting acquainted with Yang Xiaojun and the others. Right now, he wanted nothing more than to gain another dozen or so skill duplication scrolls so he could learn all of the useful skills from Yang Xiaojun in one go when he saw her again. Besides, he had only wanted to learn medicine for the gratitude tokens. Later on, he realized the doctor-patient relationship had gotten too tense these days. He couldn't get many gratitude tokens by treating and saving the lives of people. It was too slow a process. So Ren Xiaosu would prioritize saving the skill duplication scrolls instead of learning medical skills if he had them. He would only use them all at once if he met with another skill bank like Yang Xiaojun. At that time, he might even gain a lot of excellent skills, such as jumping rope, nursery rhyme singing, marble throwing, and so on. Even now, he was full of resentment whenever he was reminded about the jumping rope skill. Ren Xiaosu said, "Let's sell the antibiotics you have for cash first. Those items have an expiration date, right?" Wang Fugui nodded and said, "I think I have enough to sell for a while. Since it's getting late, I'll go and exchange the Qing Consortium's currency for some of the Li Consortium's currency tomorrow. We don't actually need money in the short term. All right, you can continue plying your old grocery store trade if we really don't have enough money to get by," Ren Xiaosu said. "But we'll need to have an excellent, long-term product to sell in the store. There are so many types of traditional Chinese medicine here. Do you think you can concoct the black medicine from it?" Wang Fugui's eyes were shimmering as he could totally foresee how well received the black medicine would be in the stronghold. Ren Xiaosu hesitated for a moment before saying, "Yeah, but we can't sell the black medicine in large quantities. Just sell one dosage per week. That'll do." Wang Fugui beamed and said, "A shop must have a unique product in its inventory. With something like this around, we won't have to worry about not having any customers." Ren Xiaosu didn't intend to exchange the black medicine for money. After all, he still had so much gold with him, so he preferred to unlock the intermediate form of the weapon over earning more money. But since a single gratitude token could be exchanged for 3 small vials of black medicine, and 1 small vial could be further divided into 5 or 6 portions to sell, just 1 gratitude token would be enough to last Ren Xiaosu for several months. It was not a heavy price to pay at all. Ren Xiaosu decided he would first walk around the stronghold tomorrow to see if he could sell the gold he had bit by bit. All of a sudden, Yan Liuyuan asked, "Where's Chen Wudi? Have y'all seen him?" Wang Fugui was taken aback. "Right, where has senior apprentice brother, Tui? Where has Chen Wudi gone?" At this moment, Chen Wudi was having a curious look around the streets of the stronghold. He had been sent to a psychiatric hospital in his childhood, and the gloomy and oppressive environment in there made him yearn for the outside world. He had also lived in a prosperous world, but that was a memory of a long time ago. Everything here gave him a familiar and strange feeling. The dazzling shops and commodities even made him forget about the important matter of going to the Western paradise to obtain the Buddhist scriptures. As Chen Wudi slowly made his way to the park they had passed by during the day, he heard singing drift out from it. Chen Wudi walked into the park and saw aunties dancing in a neat square formation on a wide plaza. This scene was so familiar yet so strange to him that he felt as though he had been transported back in time, distracting him a little. The aunties stared at Chen Wudi as he walked with dignity to the front of their square formation. Before they could realize what was going on, they saw the young man staring at them with piercing eyes and shouting, "Children, start dancing!" When Chen Wudi returned to the shop that night, his face was all bruised and swollen. When Ren Xiaosu saw him, he was shocked. Chen Wudi was someone who could even emerge unscathed after getting hit by a bullet. Who could be so godly to beat him up to such a state? Could there be someone extremely powerful inside this stronghold? But no matter how Ren Xiaosu questioned Chen Wudi wouldn't tell him what had happened. When Ren Xiaosu heard the name of the school, his first reaction was to think of how large the stronghold was to have 13 high schools. No, there should absolutely be more than that. In the enrollment form given to him by the Qing Consortium, there were recommendation letters, stronghold ID cards, enrollment grade and basic student registration information, etc., to be filled in. Tang Zhou said the school would officially add him to the school roster only after he had reported for school. Yan Liuyuan and Wang Dalong would attend 9th grade while Ren Xiaosu would attend 12th grade. When Tang Zhou said this, he also asked for Ren Xiaosu's opinion on whether he would be able to keep up with the learning progress. After all, what could he have learned from the school in town? It would be embarrassing if he sat in class and not understand anything that was being taught. However, Ren Xiaosu sneered at him. How could Tang Zhou possibly fathom a person as studious as him? When Tang Zhou heard Ren Xiaosu say that, he did not say another word. In reality, even though Ren Xiaosu and Luolan had grossed each other out, their short experience of teetering on the verge of death together brought them closer. Although everyone was saying they did not owe each other anything else, Tang Zhou was still very considerate of Ren Xiaosu and the others when doing things for them. If not for Ren Xiaosu, Tang Zhou would have died in the wilderness. According to Tang Zhou, there was also a university in Stronghold 109 that some students from other strongholds would try to qualify for. However, Ren Xiaosu felt it was all in the past when the wilderness was still safe to go out into. Now, very few people dared to venture out of their strongholds. When Ren Xiaosu mentioned this, Wang Fugui chuckled. He said that even though there were no large animals or the existence of wolves in the wilderness when he was young, there were still refugees who became bandits and killed others for gain. But even so, people would still risk their lives to travel through the wilderness to go between the strongholds. Sometimes, he really could not understand what those people were thinking. Perhaps they were really brave or just stupid, but there had never been a lack of such people. Ren Xiaosu was not in a rush to have Yan Liuyuan and Wang Dalong go through the school admission procedures. Instead, he decided he would take everyone on a tour of the stronghold the next morning after washing up. The 6 of them in their group were too unfamiliar with how things worked in the stronghold. Rather than quickly getting down to making money, they wanted to see what this place they had been longing to see for so many years was really like. The next morning, Yan Liuyuan suddenly shouted from the front yard, "Bro, come and take a look at this. There's a note here." Ren Xiaosu was stunned before quickly walking over. He had had the feeling something was off since yesterday. First, he had briefly spotted a familiar figure in the streets, then sensed someone was staring at him the whole time. The feeling of being stared at instinctively made him shudder. And now, a note had appeared from nowhere. However, this might give him some answers to all that had been going on. Ren Xiaosu took the note from Yan Liuyuan's hand and saw a line of small words written on it, "Don't overstay your welcome in this eventful place." "Bro, what do the words on the note mean?" Yan Liuyuan asked. "Who wrote it? Where did you discover this note?" Ren Xiaosu asked back. Yan Liuyuan pointed to the entrance and said, "It came from underneath the gap under the door. I think someone slotted it in last night. Could they be playing a prank on us?" No, Ren Xiaosu shook his head as he was certain this was not a prank. Because, he recognized the handwriting on the note. On his way back to the stronghold from the Jing Mountains, he had seen another line of small, beautiful words appear in the cave. At the time, Ren Xiaosu knew these words were left there by Yang Xiaojun. And it was clear the handwriting on this note was almost identical to the one in the cave. Together with the familiar figure he had spotted yesterday, Ren Xiaosu could finally confirm that Yang Xiaojun was also here in Stronghold 109. Furthermore, she left this note for him. Was some kind of major incident going to happen in Stronghold 109? That actually made her persuade him to leave? Ren Xiaosu was certain Yang Xiaojun was backed by a powerful organization that was supporting her actions. She had to know something and had come here with a specific goal in mind. Was she going to assassinate Luo Lan? After all, Yang Xiaojun had attempted to assassinate Qing Zhen, so it was understandable if she wanted to assassinate Luo Lan as well. But it didn't make sense. Currently, Luo Lan did not have that many soldiers or someone really powerful around him. It didn't seem like it would be a difficult task to kill him. If Luo Lan were really her target, Fatty Luo would probably have died yesterday. Ren Xiaosu wondered why Yang Xiaojun had come to warn him. When Yang Xiaojun left him, she even stole her dagger back from him. He didn't believe Yang Xiaojun would be so kind. But Yang Xiaojun probably did not know Ren Xiaosu had returned to that cave. So she would also not know the note she had secretly slipped in had exposed her. Everything that happened in this world was just this coincidental. But where could he go if he left this place? Ren Xiaosu was a little aggrieved. Having just been allowed into the stronghold, he had to leave again before he could even find out the name of the street he lived on. But more importantly, he couldn't get out of this place. Ren Xiaosu thought Luo Xinyu's ability might be able to disregard the presence of the stronghold's walls. In that way, she could come inside with Yang Xiaojun. But what ability did Ren Xiaosu have that would allow him to phase through the stronghold's walls? Let's not worry about this for now. Ren Xiaosu told Yan Liuyuan, "Don't tell old Wang and big sister Xiao about it yet in case they get more worried." "Okay." Yan Liuyuan nodded. "Do you need to catch up on sleep?" Ren Xiaosu asked. No, Yan Liuyuan shook his head. "I've gotten enough sleep." Even though they were in the stronghold now, Ren Xiaosu and Yan Liuyuan still kept up with their habit of keeping watch last night. It wasn't because they thought there was any hidden danger around but that they were used to this routine. If the stronghold's residents learned about this, they would probably laugh at them for not knowing things. There were indeed some thieves in the stronghold, and some people would even occasionally stake out remote places in the middle of the night to rob others, but even that was exceedingly rare. There was no need for people to keep a night watch. Living in a stronghold and living in the wilderness was different. In the morning, Wang Fugui first went out to exchange the Qing Consortium's currency they had. He inquired at the foreign exchange counter of the Li Consortium's bank. But when he asked about it, he realized there was a transaction fee of 23% on the total amount exchanged. Ren Xiaosu advised him not to exchange too much of the money. If they ended up having to go to another stronghold someday, wouldn't the transaction fee all go to waste? When Wang Fugui heard this, he felt a little nervous. Xiaosu, you mentioned that we might end up having to go to another stronghold later? Where will we be going? I didn't say that we'll definitely have to leave here. Ren Xiaosu smiled and said, but for now, we don't really need much money. Just exchange it for some pocket money and save the rest for later. Ren Xiaosu already felt that they might really have to leave this place someday to travel to the next unfamiliar stronghold. But right now, he was more curious about why Yang Xiaojun and Luo Xinyu had come to Stronghold 109. He wondered if he would get another chance to copy Yang Xiaojun's skills. So when Ren Xiaosu mentioned he wanted to tour the stronghold, Wang Fugui said that taking the streetcar would be the easiest and most economic mode of transportation. Bro, Yan Liuyuan said while leaning on the windowsill, the stronghold's residents will definitely not have anything to worry about. It's so safe and convenient to live inside here. They can enjoy a life that is hundreds of times better than the refugees by just working an easy job in the stronghold. How can people not have any worries? Ren Xiaosu sat beside him and said with a smile, even Luolan will have things to worry about. Something like that does not decrease with the increase of material gains. That's true. Yan Liuyuan nodded. Then do you think there is anyone in the world who does not have anything to worry about? Ren Xiaosu said, yeah, the dead. Yan Liuyuan slowly turned around and looked at Ren Xiaosu. Bro, do you think it's suitable to say something like that on such a happy occasion? Even a fool like Chen Wudi has his own worries. Ren Xiaosu let out a sigh. Chen Wudi was sitting in the last row with his face still swollen. No one knew where this fellow had gone to yesterday and who had given him such a beating. On either side of the street in this stronghold city, people were selling all sorts of things, like soup dumplings, tofu brains, and other breakfast foods. Some shops also sold all kinds of hardware products and groceries. Pedestrians were walking on sidewalks, and cyclists would occasionally speed past them. Ren Xiaosu asked, how much does a bicycle cost in the stronghold? I feel like it's quite convenient to travel around on one instead of having to walk. Once, an esquire in town bought a bicycle that had circulated out of the stronghold, but it was stolen on that very same night by someone else. To escape the pursuit of the esquire, the thief rode the bicycle all the way to another stronghold. A bicycle was a luxury item in town. It was something you couldn't buy even if you wanted to. I'll go ask around this afternoon. Wang Fugui said, it shouldn't be cheap. After all, resources are so scarce these days. You can see that those riding bicycles are wearing clothes of relatively better quality. It seems that they're considered quite well off in the stronghold. I should have found out more from Zhongwu on our way here to the stronghold, regretted Ren Xiaosu. They had never been in a stronghold before, but Zhongwu grew up in one. But by now, Zhongwu had reported to the school to continue working as a teacher. She was probably also going to be teaching at 13th High. On the way, Ren Xiaosu heard some people around him talking. Have you heard? Stronghold 113 has been given up on. It's said the recent earthquake collapsed Stronghold 113. Even the Qing Consortium's people have fled here to our stronghold. For real, someone said in surprise. It wasn't mentioned on the radio. They definitely wouldn't tell you anything about it on the radio, the first person said with a smile. But I have a friend who has a working relationship with the Qing Consortium, and he told me that the big shots from the Qing consortium arrived at our stronghold. They even brought in dozens of refugees with them. Refugees? The other person said in surprise, shouldn't the refugees be obediently working outside the stronghold? Why did they come in? Ren Xiaosu gave them a look but did not say anything. He heard someone else say, who knows? I wonder if they brought in any diseases, germs, or contamination from the outside. SHH, look at those people behind us. I think they might be those refugees, someone said in shock. With this reminder, the others on the streetcar also turned around and looked at them. The more they looked at them, the more they felt that Ren Xiaosu and company might really be refugees. Yan Liuyuan was surprised when he saw all of these people disembarking at the next stop. After just one stop, they were the only ones left on the streetcar. If the driver weren't required to operate the streetcar, Yan Liuyuan sensed he would also have gotten out. Ren Xiaosu scrutinized the six of themselves. Today, all of them had put on their newly washed clothes, and everyone had taken a hot water bath too, so their faces and bodies were no longer dirty. But the fashion of clothing the refugees could buy and their tanned skin contrasted too greatly from those of the stronghold residents. Bro, Yan Liuyuan whispered, I feel like the stronghold's residents aren't too friendly. The residents in the stronghold did not even come over to check with them and just avoided them as though they were the plague after guessing they might be refugees. All because they could be carrying germs from the outside, and because the stronghold had spread word that refugees were not allowed on the inside due to their contamination. Ren Xiaosu did not reply to him. He calmly said, Big Sister Xiaoyu, buy 2 new sets of clothes for each one of us tomorrow. Everyone will start wearing their new clothes so that we can blend in with the residents of the stronghold. I'm not going to wear them, Yan Liuyuan protested softly. It would feel like he was bowing down to the stronghold's residents if he wore the new clothes. Ren Xiaosu said, whether we're living in the wilderness or the stronghold, you must blend in with and understand your surroundings to survive. Only then will you have the ability to resist. When you can't change the environment, you must first learn how to disguise yourself. Wang Fugui was stunned to hear this. He didn't expect Ren Xiaosu would apply his wilderness survival principles to living in the stronghold. So was he also treating the stronghold like a place in the wilderness? They heard Ren Xiaosu add, we might still have to leave the stronghold someday, so let's be prepared for that. Yan Liuyuan's eyes lit up. As someone who knew Ren Xiaosu best, he could tell that Ren Xiaosu had already made up his mind about leaving. But Wang Fugui smiled and said, why don't we leave tomorrow then? For some reason, I always felt more comfortable living in town. There's no hurry. Ren Xiaosu shook his head and said, and we can't go outside anyway. Let's talk about it when I find a chance. At this moment, the streetcar reached the terminal station. Ren Xiaosu and the others had planned to stay on the streetcar for the return trip at first. However, they saw many residential houses further out from where the terminal station was, and they even came with yards. From a distance, it looked like this area was rather large, but it was also much more secluded when compared with other places. Ren Xiaosu tapped on the streetcar operator and asked, what is that place? That's an affluent neighborhood in our stronghold. The driver said, only the rich and powerful live here. There's no trolley tracks going there since everyone who lives there has their own car. As the driver spoke, he kept inching back as he was afraid of getting too close to Ren Xiaosu. Oh, thank you. Ren Xiaosu nodded as he looked at the affluent neighborhood. So it turned out there were also both poor and rich neighborhoods inside the stronghold? It seemed like the difference between the rich and poor was just as obvious within this stronghold. When Ren Xiaosu thanked him for the information, the streetcar operator was stunned. He had already regarded Ren Xiaosu and his group as dreadful monsters, so he didn't expect Ren Xiaosu would thank him so politely. Before the driver could react, Ren Xiaosu was asking him again, when does this streetcar turn around? The driver said haltingly, why don't you take the next streetcar? It'll arrive in 20 minutes. Ren Xiaosu looked at the driver. Your suggestion is very irrational. All passengers, please sit tight and hold onto the handrails. On the way back, Ren Xiaosu disembarked from the streetcar a stop early, not far from their shop, because he had spotted a jewelry shop. After confirming that no one was tailing him, he pretended to walk in as normally as he could. But as soon as he got in, he noticed a wanted poster put up on the walls of the jewelry shop. Ren Xiaosu was stunned when he saw the wanted poster. Wasn't this Su Xianchu's photo? He was shown smartly dressed in a private army uniform that was probably taken when he was working for the stronghold. Manager, who's on the wanted poster? Ren Xiaosu asked. I don't know. Someone from the stronghold's public order division came to put this up today. The owner of the jewelry shop said, they only mentioned that if anyone saw this person, they should immediately report it to them. There's even a reward for doing so. I haven't seen this anywhere else, so why was it only put up in the jewelry shop? Ren Xiaosu was getting worried. I heard it's because someone stole some gold from the Qing consortium. I don't know the exact details, but the Public Order Division is conducting strict checks on all unknown supplies of gold. As long as the gold shows any signs of oxidization or doesn't have a consortium's logo imprinted on it, we are to report it to the Public Order Division when we come across it. The owner of the jewelry store asked, so, is there anything I can help you with? Oh, it's nothing. Ren Xiaosu immediately walked back out of the jewelry shop. Ren Xiaosu was despondent. He realized the Qing consortium had likely detected he had taken a lot of gold with him. Although he had left behind some of the gold he'd wrapped up in the jacket, someone from the Qing consortium had to have realized the amount did not add up upon checking the jewelry shop's display counters. In fact, the check would reveal that a large quantity of gold had gone missing. That was because a lot of dust had settled on the gold items that had been placed on the counter. After the gold was taken away, the signs pointing to it would be painfully obvious. Ren Xiaosu did not want to take any chances. He knew that if the Qing consortium had specifically put up the photo of a wanted man in a jewelry shop, they must have found out something. They clearly intended to seek him out at the point of sale when he tried to dispose of the stolen goods. No, they should be seeking out Su Xianchu. Su Xianchu had just arrived at the town outside Stronghold 111. After being on the run for many days, he finally made it here before he starved to death. Along the way, Su Xianchu would use his shadow clone to run as long as he was in a good frame of mind. Although it saved him a lot of energy when using the shadow clone to carry himself forward, he was on the verge of vomiting due to the bumpy ride when being piggybacked by the shadow clone. But more importantly, he could not find much food to eat in the wilderness after parting ways with Ren Xiaosu and could only make do with some wild vegetables he found. During this time, he even suffered from diarrhea for an entire day. Fortunately for him, he was a supernatural being. Now that he had excellent physical fitness, eating some poisonous wild vegetables would not be enough to kill him. At this moment, Su Xianchu was looking forward to getting back to human civilization so that he could get something to eat. Every time he came across a rock these past 2 days, he would think it was an unfilled steamed bun that could be eaten. But when he arrived at the entrance of the town, he had a feeling that several people staring were at him. Su Xianchu went over to a shack and said, "Hello, do you have anything I can eat? I'll pay you for it." Su Xianchu swallowed hard when he saw some cornbread inside the shack. The man of the family came out and sized up Su Xianchu. "You're not from our town, right? You don't look familiar at all." "Ahem, I'm just passing by," Su Xianchu explained. He was thinking that other people should not recognize him since his face was so dirty now. But as the refugee sized up Su Xianchu, he suddenly noticed something. He shouted, "Su Xianchu! Su Xianchu is here! Everyone, grab him!" Su Xianchu was confused. On his way here to Stronghold 111, Su Xianchu actually felt very hesitant. After all, Stronghold 111 was where the Qing Consortium's headquarters were. But he felt that it wouldn't be a problem if he just stayed in town for a short while, right? But at this moment, Su Xianchu realized he was wrong to have thought that way. The Qing Consortium should have issued an order to arrest him. Otherwise, these refugees would not be trying to catch him like they were all soldiers. But he hadn't done anything at all. When he was still in the Jing Mountains, he did not even manage to get past the lockdown perimeter the Qing Consortium had set up. So why were they wasting so much effort to try to catch him? Of course, Su Xianchu was also a little worried for Ren Xiaosu and Yang Xiaojun. If there were already so many people going after someone who had not even breached the perimeter, he could easily imagine how massive the turnout would be when it came to arresting Yang Xiaojun and Ren Xiaosu. In that instant, Su Xianchu did not hesitate any further. He summoned his shadow clone to kick aside the refugee in front of him. Simultaneously, he rushed into the shack and grabbed several black cornbreads into his arms before running away. He could not stay here anymore. It seemed he had to head elsewhere. It would be best if he could go somewhere not under the control of the Qing Consortium. After much consideration, Su Xianchu suddenly felt that Stronghold 109, which was controlled by the Li Consortium, was his best choice. At this moment, the engines of a huge convoy of vehicles roared in the distance. Su Xianchu had already mounted the back of the shadow clone before the refugees could catch up to him. The buff shadow clone immediately accelerated into the depths of the wilderness. When the refugees saw this, they stopped in their tracks. This was most likely the first time they had ever seen a supernatural being with their own eyes. When the convoy arrived in town after driving back from far in the wilderness, it started slowing down. Inside one of the vehicles, Qing Zhen was dirty and covered in dirt. If it weren't for the consortium's people picking him up from outside the Jing Mountains, who knows when he would have gotten back to Stronghold 111. Qing Zhen frowned when he saw the disturbance in town. Su Man, go and find out what's happening. They didn't manage to see what had happened because they were too far away. Su Man rolled down the window and looked at one of the refugees. What happened here? The refugee walked over and said in a respectful tone, "We discovered Su Xianchu just now." Qing Zhen, who was seated in the back, immediately sat straight. Su Xianchu? Where is he? The refugee pointed in the direction Su Xianchu had fled and said, "He ran out into the wilderness." "Get someone to catch him." Qing Zhen said, "Let the Spec Ops soldiers do it. They're much more experienced in the wilderness than Su Xianchu is." "Boss," Su Man said awkwardly, "you're about to start your house arrest." Qing Zhen asked, "Where does that path lead?" Su Man gave it some thought. "Boss, it should be Stronghold 109 over there. Call Luo Lan." Qing Zhen clenched his teeth and said, "If Su Xianchu shows up in the vicinity of Stronghold 109, I want him arrested." However, he was not someone to dwell on such matters. Since he had missed his chance to get him, there was no point in regretting it. "Let's enter the stronghold," Qing Zhen said calmly. Actually, what he should be most concerned about was not Su Xianchu, but how the old fogies from the Qing Consortium were going to punish him. Or rather, how they were intending to usurp his authority. A lot of people in the outside world thought the Qing Consortium was helmed by Qing Zhen. But in actual fact, he only controlled a portion of the military. Because the consortium's external affairs were mainly handled by Qing Zhen, outsiders thought that Qing Zhen was very influential within the Qing Consortium. Only Qing Zhen himself knew that the old fogies in the consortium never trusted him. With batches and batches of the organization's shadows constantly getting replaced, the face of the Qing Consortium was the only thing that mattered to the old fogies. A saying that had circulated from the Qing Consortium went, "Violence is only a means to maintain order, it can never be order itself." In short, a shadow should stay hidden instead of coming into the open. With Qing Zhen stealing all the limelight after his confrontation with the Pyro Company, and the old fogies of the consortium long wanting to suppress his arrogance, they turned to placing him under house arrest and relieving him of all his authority. Su Man whispered, "Boss, we're going to report to the War Department tomorrow. All of our men will probably get separated and assigned to the other forces." "Okay." Qing Zhen nodded nonchalantly. "Go ahead. Do you have any words you want me to tell the others?" Su Man asked, "Why don't you step out of the car to say a few words to the men? Or we can go with you to wander the wilderness. There are so many of us, and we even have guns too, so we can do anything that we want." Qing Zhen chuckled and shook his head. "Many of them are waiting to be reunited with their wives and children back home. But you want to tell them to go back to the wilderness and try to survive there instead?" "They'd be willing," Su Man said. Qing Zhen opened the car door. The moment he came out, all the soldiers inside the military transport trucks behind him also alighted from their vehicles. The town was suddenly overcrowded with several thousand soldiers, resulting in all of the refugees running away in panic. "Gentlemen," Qing Zhen said calmly as he looked at the soldiers in front of him, "after you get assigned to other forces, perform your best and don't embarrass me." Once Qing Zhen finished, several thousand soldiers straightened their backs and answered in unison, "Yes, sir." The soldiers understood the fate awaiting them. Back into the vehicles. Qing Zhen then got into his car nonchalantly. The garrison standing on the ramparts was a little startled after witnessing this scene. It seemed like none of the Qing Consortium's troop commanders were anywhere near as influential as Qing Zhen. After entering the stronghold, Qing Zhen returned to his residential villa. He took a shower and then put on a new white suit. He had someone burn his old suit. As soon as Qing Zhen's group entered the stronghold, some of the Qing Consortium's big shots eagerly took over his operational command. The several thousand strong troops were divvied up as they got assigned to the forces under the different big shots based on a list. The soldiers under Qing Zhen's command were all brave veterans. Now that the big shots had a chance to take command of a portion of these troops, no one was willing to let this chance slip away. But it seemed that Qing Zhen did not mind at all. After his shower, Qing Zhen came out of the villa's front door. His personal car that had been parked at the door was gone. He smiled. They even took the car away. He headed outside. But the two soldiers on guard duty looked at him awkwardly and said, "Boss Qing Zhen, you can't leave the house. Please don't make it difficult for us." Qing Zhen raised his eyebrows. "The old fogies only said that I'm not allowed out of Stronghold 111. When did they say that I can't even step out of the house? Is someone making things up? Don't worry, I'm just going out to listen to some singing. Who in Stronghold 111 doesn't know that I like listening to singing?" The two soldiers looked at each other. How could he be in the mood to listen to singing at a time like this? Could it be that the renowned boss Qing Zhen wasn't worried about his own situation? But the soldiers still did not step aside for him. Qing Zhen did not say anything. Then, a bullet came from nowhere and hit the flagstone pavement in front of the two soldiers. There was a hidden sniper nearby protecting Qing Zhen. The two soldiers knew the sniper had shown them mercy. Even if the sniper had shot them dead, the board would not impose a heavier punishment on Qing Zhen over such a small matter. No one would want to cause any more trouble during the handing over of command of the combat troops. Qing Zhen was still looking calmly at the two soldiers when they decided to step back. "Thank you, Boss Qing Zhen, for showing mercy to us. All right, don't worry, no one will make things difficult for you too." Qing Zhen chuckled and walked out. The two soldiers couldn't help wondering about this as Qing Zhen left them. Everyone had heard he kept a lot of trump cards around him, but no one expected it to be true. But didn't the board usurp Qing Zhen's authority? How could anyone still be willing to follow someone who had fallen out of favor with the consortium? They heard Qing Zhen humming happily as he headed towards the prosperous part of the city. One of the soldiers asked as Qing Zhen walked away, "What is Boss Qing Zhen singing?" "I don't know. We don't even have the money to go and listen to concerts." The other soldier was unsure about what song it was. In the evening, Qing Zhen sat down alone inside a theater. Everyone else had left the place as they feared he was poison. Only Qing Zhen was watching the performances as the performers on stage rotated. He leaned his head against one of his hands. The more alcohol he drank, the clearer his vision became. In this theater, there was only a sweet and sorrowful voice drifting up to the neon lights. A post house, a crossroads, how many officials go north and south every day? Promotion brings untold joy, demotion sends one home in silence. Fame and fortune have always been fleeting. Life keeps flowing and growing. At this moment, someone walked up from behind him and said, "Qing Zhen, the board has something to discuss with you. They're requesting you attend the meeting." Qing Zhen smiled. "Tell them I'm not going." On his way back from the jewelry shop, Ren Xiaosu thought about his future plans. Now that he couldn't sell the gold in his possession and might even get targeted by others at any moment, he was starting to worry that he couldn't exchange them for cash. Initially, Ren Xiaosu was not enthusiastic about opening the shop because he still had gold. But now, he had to reconsider opening the shop to do business again. He couldn't possibly expect to live on the subsidies given by the school to students, right? Should he sell the black medicine? Ren Xiaosu didn't want to do that. After all, it was more difficult to earn gratitude tokens than money. As he walked, he suddenly realized he was back at the shop when he finally looked up. But the moment he came into the shop, he saw Wang Fugui acting suspiciously as he promoted something to a man. When Ren Xiaosu got closer, he was surprised to see it was the black medicine being promoted. From Wang Fugui's expression, it was obvious he was not explaining the proper use of the black medicine. Moreover, the middle-aged man had an indecent look about him. Ren Xiaosu felt sad. Was he destined to be a drug dealer forever? Ren Xiaosu couldn't accept this. How could a young and promising supernatural being like him be labeled with such an unworthy title? Just as he had said before, his social standing would plummet if he became known as the drug dealer. At this moment, a man walked in and said, "Doctor, can you take a look at what's wrong with me? My stomach constantly hurts." Without even thinking, Ren Xiaosu rejected him. "We won't be treating any more patients from now on." However, the man became unhappy. He said, "You're running a clinic, so how can you refuse to treat patients? Do you know who I am?" Ren Xiaosu was also getting unhappy. What was with the residents' behavior in this stronghold? Why did they all like to boast so much about who they were the moment they opened their mouths? It was as though they were living based on their social statuses. He stared at that man. "And who are you?" "I'm Yan Linfen from the Western District." "Just go around and ask who I am," the man said disdainfully. Suddenly, Ren Xiaosu heard the long-awaited voice from the palace say, "Quest, treat a patient." Ren Xiaosu looked at Yan Linfen with a broad grin. Come, tell me about your symptoms." Yan Linfen was stupefied. Was his name really that effective? He had only wanted to throw a tantrum to vent his anger, but that quickly subsided. "My stomach doesn't feel good. It hurts a little. Old Wang, prescribe 3 antibiotic pills for this patient." Ren Xiaosu said nicely, "You have gastritis, but you'll be fine after taking some medicine." "Really?" Yan Linfen said skeptically. "Yes." Ren Xiaosu said firmly. "Like I care whether it's real. Completing the quest is more important." The palace had not assigned him any quests for a dozen days. This was a good start to the day. The moment that man took the medicine from him, the voice from the palace said, "Quest complete. Awarded basic skill duplication scroll." Ren Xiaosu's eyes lit up. The quest was complete. When Yan Linfen took the medicine and paid for it, he asked, "Is there any food I should avoid?" "Don't eat bitter melon," Ren Xiaosu said absent-mindedly as he started thinking about the scroll in the palace. "Why shouldn't I eat bitter melon?" Yan Linfen was taken aback. Ren Xiaosu replied, "Because it doesn't taste good." Yan Linfen was confused. Wang Fugui sent Yan Linfen away. Ren Xiaosu looked up and asked, "Did we only get 2 customers today?" "Well, not really, but we don't know how to treat patients, so we just asked them to leave," Wang Fugui said with a smile. Then he slid out a piece of red paper from underneath the counter. "By the way, someone sent us a pamphlet. Have a look." "What is it?" Ren Xiaosu was uncertain as he took it from him. But he was stunned when he saw it, because the logo of the Pyro Company was printed at the top of the pamphlet. The Pyro Company's logo was that of a small flame which seemed to represent the survival of civilization as it passed on from generation to generation. Ren Xiaosu turned serious. Did the Pyro Company have business here in Stronghold 109 as well? Ever since he got out of the Jing Mountains, the Pyro Company was one of the organizations Ren Xiaosu was most curious about. Until now, he could only speculate on the company based on a few words Yang Xiaojun had said. For some reason, Ren Xiaosu kept a constant wariness for the company. Maybe it was because Yang Xiaojun had a hostile attitude when she was describing the Pyro Company, and he got influenced. Effective from today, supernatural beings can drop by our company and get paid for donating your blood. Your blood will be used for our company's future research and also contribute to humanity's progress. Furthermore, you will receive 1 million yuan in exchange for just 200 ml of your blood. Our company will keep your personal information confidential and offer you protection. For further information, please contact. There was a series of numbers at the bottom. According to Yang Xiaojun, the Pyro Company controlled a place similar to the Jing Mountains. Furthermore, there were no volcanoes there, and it was preserved in pristine condition. Currently, all of the strongholds held a mostly hostile view of supernatural beings. However, not only had the Pyro Company started purchasing the blood of supernatural beings, they even openly offered them protection. Wang Fugui looked at Ren Xiaosu and said with a smile, "Well, do you want to give it a try?" Yan Liuyuan walked next to them and glanced at the pamphlet. "Uncle Fugui, something is off about this company. My brother must not go there." "True." Wang Fugui immediately understood. They had witnessed the tragic cases of Zhang Baozhen and Chen Wudi for themselves. Who could guarantee that this Pyro Company was acting with good intentions? Even if the Pyro Company meant well, who could guarantee they could keep the information confidential? So they would rather not earn this money if it meant Ren Xiaosu had to risk his life for it. However, Wang Fugui realized from this just how aware Yan Liuyuan was of his surroundings. Holding the pamphlet in his hand, Ren Xiaosu tried to figure out what other tricks the company might be playing. In reality, Wang Fugui and Yan Liuyuan still did not understand this world well enough. Just citing those terrifying experimentals as an example, did those subjects all willingly become experimentals? Probably not. If the Pyro Company were trying to obtain the blood samples of supernatural beings, they were definitely thinking of obtaining the genetic information. This company was so ambitious that it actually sought to collect the blood of all supernatural beings in the world for research. But Ren Xiaosu did not think this was a good thing. He called Chen Wudi over and instructed him not to use his superpowers without his permission. For this reason, Ren Xiaosu even had to threaten Chen Wudi with the headache spell before Chen Wudi was willing to promise he would not do so. "I never expected that the headache spell would be that useful," Ren Xiaosu lamented. Wang Fugui said with some regret, "But it's quite a pity to give up on such a huge reward." Making money was a lifetime business to him. It was really difficult not to feel tempted when faced with the promise of so much money for the first time. Of course, he knew his priorities. All of a sudden, Yan Liuyuan's eyes lit up. "Since this Pyro Company is so rich, why don't we pull a heist on them?" Ren Xiaosu kicked Yan Liuyuan's buttocks. "Get lost. Pack up and get ready to go with me to school tomorrow." "Okay," Yan Liuyuan responded. Ren Xiaosu glanced at Yan Liuyuan. As this kid had grown up in an environment as harsh as the town, someone would have to teach him from time to time about right and wrong. Ren Xiaosu noticed the series of numbers at the bottom of the pamphlet. What do these numbers represent? Is it a code? That should be a telephone number. Wang Fugui smiled and said, I've heard before that every stronghold has a telephone network. A person can chat with another person even though they're dozens of kilometers away from each other. We have a landline in our shop too, but we haven't figured out how to use it yet. After this group of refugees arrived, they had to explore everything by themselves. Ren Xiaosu was wondering if he should ask Zhongwu to come over to give them a lesson about living in the stronghold so they would all get a better understanding of how things worked here. Why don't we try using the phone? Yan Liuyuan said excitedly. He was at an age where he was interested in all kinds of new things. Ren Xiaosu asked, how do we use this thing? He saw a bunch of numeric buttons on the phone, but there was no operating manual for it. Look at the series of numbers on the Pyro Company's pamphlet. Wang Fugui said as he pointed at it, do we just dial them in sequential order? I guess so. Let's try it. Ren Xiaosu said, Liuyuan, you give it a try. Everyone was quite curious about this new device, but Ren Xiaosu still took care of Yan Liuyuan and decided to let him have fun with it first. Under the gaze of everyone's anticipation, Yan Liuyuan dialed the series of numbers. They definitely would not use the Pyro Company's numbers to test it out, so it ended up with numbers being punched in randomly. But after dialing the number, nothing happened. Yan Liuyuan looked up at Ren Xiaosu and said, Bro, there's no response. Let me think. Ren Xiaosu said, we probably made a mistake operating it. You can see that it's an 8-digit number on the Pyro Company's leaflet. So we should be dialing an 8-digit number as well. Chen Wudi came in from the backyard and saw the whole lot of them crowded together. He asked, Master, what are all of you doing? Ren Xiaosu's eyes lit up. Come, my disciple, see if you know how to operate this thing. Although Chen Wudi used to live in a psychiatric hospital, he should still understand some basic functions of things, right? Maybe there was such a thing as a telephone in the psychiatric hospital? Let me see. Chen Wudi glanced at it and said, this is a telephone. Chen Wudi then picked up the handset on the telephone. Ren Xiaosu and the others finally understood they had to pick it up first before using it. They saw Chen Wudi punch in a series of numbers. After several rings, a voice sounded from the receiver. Who is it? Chen Wudi said in an imposing manner, I'm the great sage. You're crazy. With a click, the person on the other end hung up. Ren Xiaosu grinned. This phone thingy was amazing. The person on the other end could even accurately identify Chen Wudi's nature through it. Chen Wudi got so angry he wanted to call back to scold that person. However, he had already forgotten what number he dialed. Come, Liuyuan, give it a try as well, Ren Xiaosu said with a smile. Yan Liuyuan dialed the numbers in anticipation. After 2 rings, someone picked up the phone, and the voice of a middle-aged man could be heard saying, Who is this? Yan Liuyuan felt as though he had opened up a door to a new world. He said politely, Hello, uncle. The person on the other end was stunned. Who are you? Is there anything you're calling me for? It's nothing, I was just trying to make a call, Yan Liuyuan said honestly. I just learned how to use the telephone. I'm sorry for disturbing you. It's all right. The person on the other end hung up. Yan Liuyuan looked up and said to Ren Xiaosu with the receiver in his hand, Bro, this phone thingy is amazing. The other person on the phone feels like he's right across from me. Ren Xiaosu nodded. Don't test it anymore. It's not good to disturb others. But suddenly, the phone rang. Ren Xiaosu was stunned before picking it up. Hello. The person on the other end said, Do you need a small loan? The person prattled on and said a lot of things, but Ren Xiaosu and the others were stunned. They just could not understand what the person was saying. Ren Xiaosu hesitated before saying, I don't understand what you mean. That person stayed silent for a couple seconds. It just means that we can lend you money. How much is the interest? Ren Xiaosu asked after a short pause. 3%. The person in the call said. Ren Xiaosu laughed, isn't that loan sharking? The person in the call shouted to someone, boss, someone says that we're loan sharks. Someone else came to the phone and said, young man, don't you spout nonsense. We aren't loan sharks. Ren Xiaosu laughed his ass off. Isn't charging 3% interest loan sharking? Of all the business people out there, you're the ones without a conscience. Honestly, Ren Xiaosu thought that everyone in the stronghold lived and worked in a prosperous environment. But it seemed that there were also some shady businesses. The man spoke in a low voice, do you know who I am? Immediately, Ren Xiaosu wondered why the voice sounded so familiar. Didn't he hear this voice somewhere before? He asked him back, do you know who I am? The man was stunned. Who are you? Ren Xiaosu said, I'm Yan Linfen from the Western District. After a brief silence, the man replied, fuck, I'm also the Yan Linfen from Western District. Ren Xiaosu was speechless. So it turned out it was not everyone who liked introducing themselves, but that he was always encountering those who did. And they were always fucking called Yan Linfen too. It was no wonder the voice sounded so familiar. With a click, Ren Xiaosu hung up the phone. When Yan Linfen came to see the doctor, Ren Xiaosu was already a little unhappy with him. He was thinking that if he used this name over the phone, he could let those people fight among themselves. But he never expected to encounter the same person. Yan Linfen probably did not know who he was calling, right? Even if he knew who it was, Ren Xiaosu was not afraid of him. Ren Xiaosu already knew that guns were prohibited in the stronghold. In the entire stronghold, Ren Xiaosu was not afraid of anyone other than the Li Consortium's troops. Actually, we should work on our relationship with a local like him. Wang Fugui said, it seems that Yan Linfen is involved in some shady business and has underlings working for him. I think it's helpful to know such people no matter where we are. Ren Xiaosu nodded and said, if he comes here to see the doctor again, you can have a longer chat with him. Sure, Wang Fugui agreed. News of the effectiveness of our black medicine should start spreading after tonight. We won't even have to promote it and can just rely on word of mouth to create a market. Ren Xiaosu felt somewhat uncomfortable. After tearing up the Pyro Company's pamphlet, he said, everyone, don't tell anyone that Chen Wudi and I are supernatural beings. Keep a close eye on Chen Wudi and don't let him run around outside unnecessarily in the short term, in case he gets into trouble. He assumed Luolan would not disclose the fact that Chen Wudi was a supernatural being to the stronghold. However, there was no guarantee that Zhongwu's group of students could keep it a secret, so they should be prepared for all possible scenarios. Ren Xiaosu remembered the small note left by Yang Xiaojun. It seemed she was right after all. The presence of the multiple powers had turned Stronghold 109 into a chaotic place. He didn't know why or how many other powers were involved. So the best he could do was protect Yan Liuyuan and the others. Old Wang, Ren Xiaosu ordered, I'll write a list for you. Go and see if you're allowed to buy these items. Remember not to buy them together, but separately. Ren Xiaosu had to prepare an escape route. He would use it as a last resort. Ren Xiaosu had stolen something very crucial from Yang Xiaojun while they were in the Jing Mountains, advanced bomb making. The next morning, Wang Fugui went out. He did not ask Ren Xiaosu what he needed those items for. If Ren Xiaosu needed them, he had to go out and get them. Currently, Wang Fugui saw himself as the shopkeeper of the group. All he needed to do was to perform his duty as required of him. Ren Xiaosu had been afraid that Wang Fugui would mess up with this task. In the end, he realized Wang Fugui was even more careful than he had expected him to be. Wang Fugui had spent the entire day taking the streetcar to the north, south, east, and west districts, making 4 separate purchases in each of them in order to gather all of the items for Ren Xiaosu. When he got home at night, Ren Xiaosu could see that he was wiped out. Xiaoyu had already bought some new clothes for Ren Xiaosu and the others. Meanwhile, Yan Liuyuan, Ren Xiaosu, and Wang Dalong's school admission procedures had been processed. Furthermore, Xiaoyu helped them find out the schools in the stronghold had 2 intersession breaks each year. It was winter now, so the first semester of school was coming to an end. Ren Xiaosu and the others would not have to attend school for long before the semester break began. Of course, this was in line with what Ren Xiaosu wanted. The beginning should be an adaptation phase, so having a vacation break would certainly take the pressure off a little. But in the end, they would still have to go back to school. Ren Xiaosu was suddenly looking forward to it. He wondered if the Stronghold school taught similar things as what Mr. Zhang had taught them. After dinner, Wang Fugui found Ren Xiaosu and said to him quietly, "When I was buying these items today, one of the shopkeepers mentioned something that scared me even until now." "What was it?" Ren Xiaosu asked. The shopkeeper let slip his wondering about why everyone was buying these things. Wang Fugui said, "So I asked him who else was buying them. He then told me that a girl had gone to his shop yesterday to buy the same things, and that he had fortunately restocked the items today. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had anything for me to buy." Ren Xiaosu frowned. Out of nowhere, he thought the girl might just be Yang Xiaojun. Their 2 bomb-making skills were exactly the same. So when considering how to create a bomb, the items they would require were probably going to be the same as well. Yang Xiaojun was probably not expecting Ren Xiaosu to be doing the same exact thing as her. Just what was Yang Xiaojun planning? Surely this girl wouldn't be thinking of blowing up the stronghold, right? Of course, it wasn't practical to blow up the stronghold with just a bomb of this magnitude. Ren Xiaosu felt that Yang Xiaojun's target might just turn out to be the Pyro Company's branch office in Stronghold 109. After all, he already felt Yang Xiaojun had some kind of feud with the Pyro Company. The next morning, Ren Xiaosu and the others took the streetcar and hurried on their way to 13th High School. When they were on the streetcar, they noticed some other students on it as well. It was easy to recognize who were the students since they all wore blue and white uniforms. When Tang Zhou handed over the application procedures to them, they were told the school uniforms would only be issued when they reached school since it was given out based on their measurements. Zhongwu's students had already been issued theirs, so only Ren Xiaosu, Yan Liuyuan, and Wang Dalong were not wearing it. Currently, Zhongwu was living in the faculty dormitory with her students. From now on, these students had to work hard and depend on themselves since their parents were no longer around. But what Ren Xiaosu didn't expect was that these students were exceptionally united. Having nearly died, and without any more family around, they instinctively started treating each other as family. At this moment, Ren Xiaosu heard the students at the front of the streetcar discussing, "Did anyone tell you guys yet? There are some refugees who came into the stronghold recently. I heard someone fell sick the moment they got home after taking the same streetcar as them. My mother said it's because refugees carry germs from the outside." Another student said, "My dad told me to stay away from the refugees if I encounter them." "It doesn't feel that serious to me," a female student said softly. "Who knows? My mum said the germs brought in by the refugees to the stronghold several years ago infected a lot of people and killed dozens more. Why else do you think everyone does not want them inside the stronghold?" When Ren Xiaosu heard that, he frowned. Why had the news spread so far in just one night? Honestly speaking, Ren Xiaosu had really not thought refugees would be ostracized so badly before coming into the stronghold. Besides, even if they had been ostracized before, it was more for reasons such as being poor. He wouldn't have expected it to be over something like them being carriers of germs. It was not like the town was considered a quarantine zone. Ren Xiaosu was very disdainful of any talk of the refugees being germ carriers. He had been in contact with a lot of people from strongholds, such as Luo Lan, Tang Zhou, Yang Ziajin, Luo Xinyu, Lu Buletin, and the private troops who had gone on the expedition. It wasn't like any of those people had died of an illness, right? Who could have purposely said the refugees were spreading diseases in the stronghold? This was making Ren Xiaosu and the others seem like they were some kind of terrible disease carriers. Wang Dalong was transfixed on a girl in the streetcar. It was as though the conversation the others were having was none of his business. However, Yan Liuyuan was a tad more sensitive. He frowned and whispered, "Bro, are we really carrying germs on us?" No, Ren Xiaosu shook his head. Then why are they saying that? Shouldn't we be refuting them? Yan Liuyuan's previously good mood after getting into the stronghold was spoiled by what was going on around them. It's no use refuting them, Ren Xiaosu answered. Why? They're vilifying us. Yan Liuyuan could not understand. Liuyuan, if 10 people say we're in the wrong, does that count as vilifying us? Yes, why not? Yan Liuyuan answered. Then if 100 people say that we're at fault, does that count as vilifying us? Ren Xiaosu continued to ask. I guess so. Yan Liuyuan gave it some thought before answering. Then what if 10,000 people are saying something bad about us? Ren Xiaosu said calmly, that wouldn't be vilification but justice. Bro, Yan Liuyuan said softly, although I'm not as philosophical as you, if 10,000 people vilified us, I wouldn't call it justice as long as I think it's wrong. Ren Xiaosu smiled. You're right. These students on the streetcar had all been influenced by their parents. They'd been told not to foolishly stand up for others and to be more street smart when they were outside. Their parents would also tell them not to mix with certain people. In reality, the students' mindsets were basically an extension of their parents' wills. Therefore, Ren Xiaosu understood that the majority of the stronghold's residents did not welcome their arrival. But he wasn't really sure whether this situation would get worse. However, Ren Xiaosu had no time to care about this right now. When he learned Yang Ziajin might also be purchasing large quantities of bomb-making material, he got even more curious about what she was planning to do. Moreover, Ren Xiaosu felt that if he had a chance, it would be best to find out exactly where Yang Ziajin was going to plant the bomb. That would save him the trouble of getting bombed himself. Until now, Ren Xiaosu had only met with the stronghold overseer whose name was Lu Yuan. There was no trace of anyone from the Li Consortium. Could the Li Consortium not know about what was going on in the stronghold? Surely that couldn't be possible. So why didn't the Li Consortium make an appearance to control the situation? With so many different powers gathered here, it felt like some kind of matchmaking session. As the host, why wasn't there any sign of the Li Consortium? It was at this moment that a student on the streetcar said, "There's still half a year until exams. I wonder if we'll qualify for uni." "Haha, I've already given up," said a student dressed more casually than the others. His collared shirt was mostly untucked while his hair was pretty long. As he spoke, he kept brushing his bangs to the side. "My dad already said he wants me to go to his factory and climb the ranks after I graduate from high school." "What does your family's factory produce?" someone asked. That student laughed and said, "We make clothes. My family's factory processes 10% of the fabric brought in from the outside. A lot of the clothes we make are even exported to the other strongholds to be sold." "That sounds awesome," the other student exclaimed. "But it hasn't seemed like it's very safe outside the stronghold in recent times. Are the clothes your family makes still going to get exported?" "It's true that it isn't safe outside the stronghold anymore. My dad says we won't be exporting anything out in the short term." Ren Xiaosu took a look at them. Zhang Jinglin once said that the smokestack industries were all outside the stronghold, while the industries that did not cause serious pollution were within it. Of course, it wasn't an absolute. Sometimes, Ren Xiaosu thought the stronghold seemed to survive on the basis that the refugees had to suffer on the outside. Life outside was an abyss of suffering while everything on the inside was peaceful and prosperous. The refugees living on the outside were only allowed to get involved with the most basic production of raw materials, while all further processing was to be carried out inside the strongholds. This would mean that whatever items the refugees needed, they would have to buy it with money from the stronghold. In this way, whatever hard-earned money of the refugees would eventually flow back into the hands of the stronghold. To the big shots of the corporations, this was all but a simple game. Actually, Ren Xiaosu did not feel that most people in the strongholds had any value at all. So why would the corporations find it necessary to support so many people? But unlike how Ren Xiaosu had imagined it, those who lived in the strongholds had always lived in one since the strongholds started. However, a consortium was not necessarily a consortium at the beginning. By the time the corporations started growing and gaining power, the masses in the strongholds had already formed a unique way of life. Even if the corporations wanted to change that, they would find it extremely difficult to do so. The difference between the majority of a stronghold's residents and a town's refugees was none other than that those who were born in the strongholds had won before the race had even started. The students in front of them looked like they were affluent second generations of the stronghold. Wang Dalong had been an affluent second generation in their previous town. But now, it seemed like Wang Dalong was doing much worse when compared to these people. At this moment, one of the girls realized Wang Dalong was staring at her with an obsessive gaze. As such, she glared back at Wang Dalong. But even so, Wang Dalong did not look away. He was extremely focused on her. Then Ren Xiaosu heard the students changing the subject. Have you heard about the new transfer student in class 12-21? Are you talking about that girl? The other boys suddenly became interested in this topic. I saw her from a distance 2 days ago. I heard she had transferred over from another high school. But she's always wearing that cap, so I couldn't get a clear look at her face. A girl who could provoke a group of boys into discussing her would definitely be pretty to a certain extent. However, when Ren Xiaosu heard this, he got an odd feeling. At this moment, the driver at the front of the streetcar shouted, "We've arrived at 13th High." Ren Xiaosu led Yan Liuyuan and Wang Dalong out of the streetcar. As it only took them 4 stops to get from the shop to the school's entrance, Ren Xiaosu wondered whether they should walk to school in the future. Then Yan Liuyuan discovered Ren Xiaosu had abruptly stopped in his tracks. He turned around to where Ren Xiaosu was looking and was surprised to see a cap-wearing girl looking straight back at Ren Xiaosu. Ren Xiaosu had already made a guess on the streetcar, but he really had not expected to bump into Yang Xiaojin here. Instead of catching up with one another, Ren Xiaosu and Yang Xiaojin both reached for their waists, ready to pull out their guns. However, both of them had a sudden, simultaneous realization that they were here to attend school. In fact, Ren Xiaosu's gun was not holstered at his waist. He kept it in the storage space in his mental palace. Yan Liuyuan was confused. Wasn't this cap-wearing girl the person from before who was with the celebrity called Luo Zhenyu? Why did she appear here then? Furthermore, she even caused Ren Xiaosu such panic? Instantly, Ren Xiaosu got a thought in his mind. He could sense that Yang Xiaojin seemed to be a little surprised and might even be thinking of silencing him. Ren Xiaosu could guess why Yang Xiaojin would have such a reaction. Clearly, Yang Xiaojin was the transfer student those students had mentioned. This girl had come straight to Stronghold 109 after getting out of the Jing Mountains. Furthermore, she was even allowed direct entry into the Stronghold. Getting into the Stronghold could easily be explained with Luo Zhenyu's superpower. But surely that power wasn't going to help Yang Xiaojin enroll for school as well, right? Who could possibly have such an awesome superpower? As such, her organization must have already infiltrated into this stronghold. By investigating how Yang Xiaojin's student application was handled, it might be possible to find out who was secretly backing her in Stronghold 109. Although they were once teammates and had been connected by a temporary alliance, their relationship wasn't exactly that close, to be honest. so it was normal that Yang Xiaojun would react in such a way to protect herself and her companion in the organization. Ren Xiaosu felt a little helpless. He hadn't expected to meet this cap-wearing girl here either. Perhaps this girl might not even know he already had an idea of who had left the note under the door. The two of them were caught in a deadlock outside the school's entrance. Quite a few students gave them strange looks as they passed by. Since Ren Xiaosu felt this wasn't going to lead anywhere, he initiated a reconciliatory action. He slowly brought his hand out from behind his waist to show he wasn't holding a gun. Yang Xiaojun looked at him calmly but did not put her hand down. Ren Xiaosu had a look at the pedestrians around them before attempting to talk about something else to ease the situation further. "Return the dagger to me." Yang Xiaojun raised an eyebrow. Honestly, she had not expected Ren Xiaosu to talk about this. At this moment, several students walked over. When they saw Yang Xiaojun, they greeted, "Hey, why are you standing out here?" Yang Xiaojun calmly pointed at Ren Xiaosu. "He's trying to rob me." Ren Xiaosu reacted, "Hey." More and more students came over to watch the commotion. One of the reasons was that Yang Xiaojun got quite popular after her transfer, and the other reason was that people just loved watching a commotion. Ren Xiaosu panicked on the spot. "We know each other. If he got into trouble for suspected robbery on his first day of school, that would be such an injustice." More importantly, Ren Xiaosu did not expect Yang Xiaojun to be so ruthless that she would bluntly accuse him of attempting to rob her. Besides, how could she say he was trying to rob her? The dagger was his in the first place. He had traded food to her for it. "I can let slide you taking back the dagger for yourself, but what's with your accusation?" The students had doubtful looks as they glanced at Yang Xiaojun before casting their eyes to Ren Xiaosu. "You two know each other?" "It doesn't look like it." "We really know each other," Ren Xiaosu hurriedly said. "Isn't it just a misunderstanding? I'm also a student of 13th High." "Since you say you know her, tell us what her name is," a male student demanded. "Yang Xiaojun." Ren Xiaosu was amused. Yang Xiaojun's biggest flaw in her plan was that he already knew her name. However, the male student sneered. "How dare you pretend that you know her? Her name is Ren Xiaosu." Ren Xiaosu felt like he'd been struck by lightning and nearly broke down. He looked at Yang Xiaojun in disbelief. But he realized Yang Xiaojun wasn't embarrassed at all. It looked like nothing to her as she focused on watching Ren Xiaosu make a fool of himself. "But if your name on the student application is Ren Xiaosu, what the fuck should I be called? Are you not ashamed?" One student looked at Ren Xiaosu and said, "You say you're also from 13th High, but why aren't you wearing a uniform? Which class are you in and what's your name?" Ren Xiaosu calmed down a little by this time. He quieted his thoughts before saying, "If I say that my name is also Ren Xiaosu, I doubt you guys will believe me." At his side, Yan Liuyuan was almost tearing up with laughter. It was at this moment that he made a careful assessment of Yang Xiaojun. It seemed like his brother had had quite a few run-ins with her. Yan Liuyuan felt this farce playing out in front of him wasn't really that big a deal. It was pretty interesting to see Ren Xiaosu getting upstaged like this. There were simply too few people who could get an edge over Ren Xiaosu like that. This cap-wearing girl was definitely not a normal person. Besides, normal people would never need to use a pseudonym either. While Ren Xiaosu was trying to explain himself to the others, Yan Liuyuan ran before Yang Xiaojun. "Hello, big sis. I'm Ren Xiaosu's younger brother, and my name is Yan Liuyuan." Yang Xiaojun did not even blink when she was sabotaging Ren Xiaosu. But when she saw Yan Liuyuan, she turned pleasant and cheerful. She said in a soft voice, hello. I'm your big brother's good friend." Yan Liuyuan turned around and took a look at Ren Xiaosu, who was caught inside the crowd. Was this really what a good friend would do? In the end, the large group of people forcefully brought Ren Xiaosu to the academic affairs office. At the office, the teacher flared up when he was told that someone had tried to rob a student. But when he saw Ren Xiaosu's admission papers, he became polite. He had received the notification yesterday that there would be a student admitted to the senior high section, and another 2 students to be admitted to the junior high section. He was informed of this news by the principal himself. Furthermore, he was reminded repeatedly that these 3 students were extremely important and were closely related to Lu Yuan, the stronghold overseer. Although the actual controller of the stronghold was the Li Consortium, the daily running of the stronghold was presided over by Lu Yuan as long as it did not affect the consortium's interests. It could be said that he had power over the life and death of many people. Perhaps, the consortium had never thought much of Lu Yuan before. But to the everyday man on the streets, Lu Yuan was still the most admirable existence they needed. But what puzzled the teacher at the academic affairs office was, didn't someone named Ren Xiaosu already get transferred into the school? When he saw the school application form in front of him, he felt a little confused. Ren Xiaosu felt that this matter between him and Yang Xiaojun was still not over. "Teacher, which class am I going to be in?" Ren Xiaosu asked. The academic affairs teacher smiled and said, "Let's go, we're going to class 12-3. Come, let me introduce you to your new classmates." He called over another teacher to take Yan Liuyuan and Wang Dalong to the junior high section while he personally led Ren Xiaosu to the senior high section. It was at this moment that Ren Xiaosu remembered something. What was it that those students on the streetcar had said? The new transfer student was in class 12-2? How lucky for him to not have been assigned to the same class as Yang Xiaojun. Otherwise, if there were 2 Ren Xiaosus in a class, the teachers would probably break down, let alone Ren Xiaosu. When Ren Xiaosu entered the class, the teacher who brought him here said kindly, "There's an empty seat in the 3rd row from the back. You may sit there for now. In our school, we assign seats to the students based on their results. After the upcoming exams, you may choose where you wish to sit if you do well." "Okay, thank you, teacher," Ren Xiaosu said politely. He had seen Yang Xiaojun on the way here when he passed by class 12-2 next door, and she was sitting in the very last row all by herself. The 2 of them exchanged a fiery look full of belligerence. That said, Yang Xiaojun seemed like she was truly unafraid that Ren Xiaosu would go and tell on her to the Qing Consortium. No, Ren Xiaosu felt he had better get Yan Liuyuan and the others to leave first. Who knew what kind of tricks Yang Xiaojun might try again? Ren Xiaosu sat at his desk. On his left was a female student similar in age to him. On his right was the hallway. "Hello, I'm Cao Yuki. What's your name?" The female student greeted Ren Xiaosu. "I'm Ren Xiaosu." Cao Yuki asked, "Are you a transfer student?" Ren Xiaosu was silent for a moment. Which school did you transfer from?" Cao Yuki followed up with, "East City." Ren Xiaosu hesitated for a moment before saying, "I transferred from 5th High." 5th High. Cao Yuki was stunned. "But there's no such school in our stronghold." This time, it was Ren Xiaosu's turn to be stunned. "There's a 13th High, so why wouldn't there be a 5th High? How does the numbering in this stronghold work?" Actually, there used to be a 5th high school in the stronghold, but it merged with 6th high school later as they were too close to each other. In recent years, the population in the stronghold had constantly been growing. As such, a residential building was built on the former site of 5th high school after it got demolished. But how would Ren Xiaosu know that? He was just making things up. "You?" Cao Yuki looked at Ren Xiaosu suspiciously. "So which school did you really transfer from?" 8th High. Ren Xiaosu said. Cao Yuki would know something was wrong even if she were a moron. She was startled for a bit before asking, "Don't tell me you're from outside the stronghold." As Cao Yuki said that, she inched further away from Ren Xiaosu. The rumors of refugees carrying diseases had been flying all over the place for the past 2 days. For example, some people who were worried about the refugees entering the stronghold at the beginning would say, "Will the refugees bring in diseases from the outside or something?" After all, there's a saying that all refugees are contaminated. When it reached the next person, it would become, "This is bad. The refugees have brought diseases into the stronghold." When it spread to the third person, several dozen people have already died from the disease the refugees are carrying. As it spread, the refugees want to kill everyone in the stronghold with their disease. Cao Yuki put some distance between herself and Ren Xiaosu. But as fellow classmates and desk mates, how far could she possibly distance herself? In the face of Cao Yuki's questioning, Ren Xiaosu did not answer or lie. He did not say he was a refugee because he always believed there was nothing wrong with being one in the first place. This wasn't up to him. Besides, it wasn't something disgraceful either. Ren Xiaosu might change into a new set of clothes and try to integrate into this society, but he would not deny who he was. If he did, he would have denied all 17 years of his life thus far. So at this moment, Cao Yuki was looking at Ren Xiaosu in silence as she knew she had guessed correctly. He's a refugee. Cao Yuki was at a loss. Her new desk mate had turned out to be a refugee. Honestly, Cao Yuki was even hoping to switch seats. But at this moment, a bent old man walked in. The old man placed his lesson plan on the lectern and said slowly, "The final exams will be here soon, so let's review trigonometric functions today." Ren Xiaosu was startled. What are functions? Tang Zhou had asked Ren Xiaosu if he wanted to start with the 12th grade curriculum. At the time, Ren Xiaosu confidently said he had studied well during his time in town. When it came to learning, he said it would absolutely not be a problem for him. But now, Ren Xiaosu realized what Zhang Jinglin had taught him was quite different from what was being taught here in the stronghold. In reality, Zhang Jinglin could not be faulted for that. Zhang Jinglin himself wasn't a proper teacher either. Moreover, their class consisted mainly of the younger boys and girls such as Yan Liuyuan and Wang Dalong, so there wasn't a need to follow a lesson plan meant for higher grades. When a student got to Ren Xiaosu's age in town, they would usually stop schooling and start helping out at home. It was only Ren Xiaosu who had an abnormal thirst for more knowledge. All these reasons led to Ren Xiaosu unable to understand what was being taught in class at this moment. The entire lesson felt like he was making his way through a fog. Ren Xiaosu had always been extremely attentive when attending classes. He wanted nothing more than to remember everything that was taught in Zhang Jinglin's lessons. But it was different this time. He also wanted to take in all of what had been taught for trigonometric functions, but he just didn't have the ability to do so. He couldn't make sense of it at all. When he had come to school to process his admission, the Academic Affairs Office issued him new textbooks. However, these textbooks were all for 12th grade classes. Even if Ren Xiaosu wanted to catch up on his knowledge, he would have to start with the 10th grade curriculum. During class intermission, Ren Xiaosu's desk mate hurriedly left her seat. Several students gathered in the corner of the classroom and started chattering. At times, some of the students in the group would let out a gasp, exclaim, or frown. Ren Xiaosu didn't even have to wonder to know they were discussing his status as a refugee, and the harm he might bring to them as one. People in the stronghold did not treat refugees nicely. This was Ren Xiaosu's feeling after interacting with them. There were even times when he felt living in town was much freer. Of course, with the current threat of the experimentals and wolf pack, it might not be safe to live in town. The refugees living in the town outside Stronghold 109 probably did not know the wilderness was filled with many things that could threaten their lives. Therefore, Ren Xiaosu, Yan Liuyuan, and the others could only bear with it for now. This was because they hadn't found a safe haven yet to replace the protection the stronghold offered them. After the class intermission, it felt like every one of the students knew Ren Xiaosu was a refugee. Everyone's attitude towards him became colder. Some of the students who had wanted to reach out to get to know Ren Xiaosu were now left with a complex mix of emotions. More importantly, in order to strengthen their own social class, the consortiums had inculcated into everyone the idea that refugees were of a lower class. They would often intentionally or unintentionally spread the idea that refugees were contaminated and used this as a reason to refuse entry to them into the strongholds. This also helped them to avoid getting caught in a moral outrage. I would like for the refugees to come into the stronghold too, but they've been contaminated. If we allow them to come in, that would be irresponsible of us to everyone else. The stronghold residents were used to hearing similar statements. However, Ren Xiaosu wasn't really bothered by it. Although he would like to get to know more people at school, he wouldn't force it if others weren't willing to make friends with him. After all, he and Yan Liuyuan had solely relied upon each other all these years. It didn't matter to him what others thought about them. After school ended on the same day, Ren Xiaosu grabbed his backpack and left the class. It wasn't like he was anxious to get home. He just didn't want to lose sight of Yang Xiaojun. On that night in the Jing Mountains, Ren Xiaosu clearly remembered how terrifying it was when he saw Yang Xiaojun taking a sniper rifle out of thin air. If he allowed Yang Xiaojun to get a step ahead of him in locating a commanding point, he would probably end up dead. In Ren Xiaosu's opinion, Yang Xiaojun was very likely looking to silence him. This was because Ren Xiaosu was very sure that if he told Luolan that Yang Xiaojun had been admitted into 13th high school, not only would Yang Xiaojun's plan fail, something would also happen to the person who helped her with her school enrollment. Ren Xiaosu believed the Qing consortium still had some hidden influence within this stronghold. If they knew about Yang Xiaojun's whereabouts, Qing Zhen and Luolan would definitely not miss this chance to exterminate a threat. When he left the class, he happened to spot Yang Xiaojun coming out of the class next door. A smile appeared on Yang Xiaojun's face under her cap. She did not make her way out of school but instead went in the opposite direction as she headed to the top floor of the school building. The rooftop became quiet and secluded after school. Ren Xiaosu frowned as he was unsure of what Yang Xiaojun was planning. After school, the students started pouring out of the compound. As it was only 5 p.m., many students stayed behind at school to play basketball or soccer. Ren Xiaosu got a thought when he saw this scene. He wondered how the refugees outside would feel if they knew the people in the stronghold were actively seeking enjoyment in their lives during a time when refugees were struggling to even fill their stomachs. Therefore, the walls of the strongholds not only stopped the dangers of the wilderness from coming in, but also prevented the refugees from knowing what was going on inside. It didn't let them realize just how comfortable it really was inside a stronghold. But Ren Xiaosu thought this seemed a little distorted. It felt like the recent disaster had caused humans to put on an even greater pretense of peace and prosperity. It was just like how an oppressed and poor person who got rich overnight would likely choose to splurge and squander without limits. This was a kind of psychological perverseness, one that needed fulfilling. As Ren Xiaosu followed Yang Xiaojun, he realized she had a great figure, and she was tall as well. Yang Xiaojun glanced at him when she was turning the corner at the stairs. Ren Xiaosu immediately looked away. Upon reaching the rooftop, Yang Xiaojun pushed open the rusty metal door and walked outside. Ren Xiaosu followed and suddenly felt as though his horizons were broadened as he stood outside on the rooftop overlooking the stronghold. This was the first time he was able to do so. Although the school building wasn't that tall, it was high enough to be able to see into the distance. At this moment, Yang Xiaojun threw something at Ren Xiaosu. It was the dagger she had stolen from Ren Xiaosu. "We're even now." Yang Xiaojun sounded very calm. She did not explain why she had taken back the dagger, nor did Ren Xiaosu ask about it. The two of them stood on the rooftop and were locked in a stalemate. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps came from behind where Ren Xiaosu was standing. He turned around to look and was stunned to discover two students, a male and a female, holding hands as they came up via the stairway. It looked like they were a couple. When the couple saw there were others around, they did not seem to mind and continued heading up towards the roof. As a result, Ren Xiaosu shut the door leading to the rooftop. The couple was dumbfounded when they saw the door get shut in their faces. When Ren Xiaosu closed the door securely and turned back towards Yang Xiaojun, he discovered she was already pointing a small silver pistol at him. Ren Xiaosu immediately recognized the type of gun. It was a Sig Sauer P238. This was once the most classic model of Sig Sauer and was known as the pretty lady among handguns. But Ren Xiaosu did not panic. He said, "If we wanted to kill each other, we would have already done so. Aren't we both here because we want to reconcile?" If Yang Xiaojun had really intended to shoot, she wouldn't have gone through the trouble of throwing the dagger back to him. Ren Xiaosu was feeling unusually calm at this moment. Yang Xiaojun put away her gun again and said, "How did you manage to escape from the Qing Consortium's defense perimeter?" "I kept running all the way out." Ren Xiaosu played dumb. "What happened in the Jing Mountains after we left?" Yang Xiaojun asked. Countless experimentals came rushing out, and there was even a monstrous creature that appeared from the crater of the volcano. Ren Xiaosu briefly mentioned, a lot of shocking incidents occurred. "You can't possibly imagine how terrifying that creature in the crater was." "I can imagine that," Yang Xiaojun corrected him. Her answer stunned Ren Xiaosu. Yang Xiaojun sounded very firm. Could Yang Xiaojun also have seen something the size of that creature before? Ren Xiaosu asked, "Are you worried that I'll squeal on you to the Qing Consortium?" "I'm not afraid of that now." Yang Xiaojun said, "Because you also have a secret you're afraid the Qing Consortium will find out about." "What secret?" Ren Xiaosu suddenly felt as though something was off, and he had missed out on some details. Yang Xiaojun started smiling. There was even a hint of arrogance to it. "When Luo Xinyu and I went back the way we took to the Jing Mountains, we discovered the wolf pack had been waiting at the mouth of the canyon all along. If it weren't for Luo Xinyu's ability to jump through the shadows, we would probably have had to take a detour to get around them. But calculating the time you took to get back, you must have already reached the town before Stronghold 113 was destroyed. First, you couldn't have run that quickly if you were just a normal person with greater strength. Second, if you were really a normal person, you couldn't have gotten past the wolf pack for sure." Ren Xiaosu tensed up. Yang Xiaojun continued, "Therefore, you're also a supernatural being. It was just that you kept your powers more hidden than Luo Xinyu and me. It was no wonder you dared to join the expedition to head to the Jing Mountains. It was because you had a hidden trump card." "I didn't meet any wolves on my way back," Ren Xiaosu said calmly, "I just ran through the canyon. The face bugs can't move fast either, so I had already run past them by the time they crawled out of their caves." Yang Xiaojun looked seriously at Ren Xiaosu and said, "I'm not listening." Ren Xiaosu was speechless. There was nothing he could do about it. After all the explanation, all it took were 3 words for it to be refuted. But Yang Xiaojun suddenly said, "I'm not saying all this to threaten you. I just want you to understand that everyone has secrets. So don't do anything stupid that'll make both of us suffer. Deal?" Ren Xiaosu said. In fact, that was what he wanted as well. As long as everyone got along peacefully, everything would be fine. They had gotten along rather well in the Jing Mountains, so there was no need to fight to the death now just because they were out of the mountains. Moreover, if Yang Xiaojun and those working with her really wanted to make a move, he would be more handicapped since Yan Liuyuan, Xiaoyu and the others were all normal people. Of course, Ren Xiaosu knew he could not drop his guard just because of this temporary ceasefire. After all, Yang Xiaojun was someone who could even steal back a dagger she had given away, so what else could she be capable of? After the talk, Yang Xiaojun got ready to go downstairs. As she went past Ren Xiaosu, she noticed his grip on the dagger tightened. Ren Xiaosu asked, "Why is the Pyro Company offering to buy the blood of supernatural beings? And why did you all make an attempt on Qing Zhen's life? The danger in Stronghold 109 is greater than you think." Yang Xiaojun said, "Do not recklessly provoke the Pyro Company, nor sell your blood to them. That's all I can say about it." As for the matter between us and Qingzhen, you're still not fit to involve yourself yet. What other danger is there? Ren Xiaosu was startled. Could there still be other forces at play other than the Pyro Company? Don't be so nosy. Yang Xiaojun said, besides, I doubt you have much free time to care about other matters. You might have underestimated how much the stronghold residents ostracize the refugees. Ren Xiaosu started pondering. It seemed like the refugees coming into the stronghold was still not over yet. He looked down at the school entrance. A girl wrapped in a scarf and wearing a pair of sunglasses stood there. When the girl noticed him looking in her direction, she waved at him in greeting. Just by this familiar greeting, Ren Xiaosu knew it was Luo Xinyu. Ren Xiaosu decided to clear the last of his doubts. Or to be accurate, this was something he wanted to know deep down. Why have supernatural beings started appearing? Yang Xiaojun stood at the entrance of the rooftop and turned around to look at Ren Xiaosu. She pointed a finger at her head and said, humans have always been weakening their physical attributes during evolution. You've said this before when we were in the Jing Mountains, and so has that Mr. Zhang from Stronghold 178. That's the price to pay for wisdom. I know that. Ren Xiaosu nodded. At that time, Yang Xiaojun had also hinted that Zhang Jinglan was not a simple man. So she had already guessed his identity back then, but she wasn't sure about it yet. For some reason, Ren Xiaosu felt that this conversation was extremely important. The girl seemed to be using what he already knew to help him uncover the truth of this world. Ren Xiaosu started to get serious. Therefore, if a price has been paid, it naturally means there's been a harvest, Yang Xiaojun explained. Ren Xiaosu was a little taken aback. What do you mean? Yang Xiaojun laughed. She pushed her cap down further and said, when a disaster comes, mental strength becomes the highest caliber of weapon humanity has in the face of danger. After they took over the running of the shop, they had informed a lot of those who came to see the doctor that the shop would not be doing any more consultations in the future. As such, the popularity of the shop died down very quickly. For the past few days, he and old Wang still hadn't decided about what to do with the shop. As Ren Xiaosu walked in, he noticed people crowding around Wang Fugui. Wang Fugui was explaining something to them. Boss, you're finally back. Wang Fugui's eyes gleamed when he saw Ren Xiaosu. Why are there so many people here? Ren Xiaosu asked. Wang Fugui pulled Ren Xiaosu aside and whispered, didn't we sell off one dosage of the black medicine the day before yesterday? As a result, people have already started finding their way here. That can happen. Ren Xiaosu was a little confused. Men always openly share such things over a meal. Wang Fugui smiled and said, all you young men have such high libidos, you don't understand the pain of the middle-aged and older men. They're all in the same boat. Besides, our black medicine does not have any side effects after taking it. That makes it so much better than the other medicines out there. But we still can't sell too much of it. Ren Xiaosu rejected the idea and said, tell them that only one dosage will be sold per week. We can't sell any more than that. Seeing that a great business opportunity couldn't be completed, Wang Fugui was upset. If Ren Xiaosu could give him more of the black medicine, he would guarantee their shop would become the largest healthcare product store in the stronghold. What sort of a concept was it to monopolize the healthcare products industry in a stronghold? But since Ren Xiaosu said no, there was nothing that he could do about it. Wang Fugui explained to the customers that if they wanted to buy the black medicine, they would have to wait until next week. Suddenly, a customer said, I'll pay 800 yuan to reserve next week's medicine. Keep it for me until you have it ready. Wang Fugui's eyes lit up. They could even do that? Even as a shrewd businessman, Wang Fugui did not realize there would be such a strong demand for the black medicine from these middle-aged men in the stronghold. When the others heard someone offer 200 additional yuan to make a reservation, their interest immediately subsided. Although they wanted to buy it, they didn't want to be a sucker just to get it. So after the person who made the reservation paid the deposit, the others quickly dispersed. Then from nearby Yan Liuyuan said, "We can't use that kind of simple porcelain vial anymore. We've got to hold the black medicine in the best containers so that it'll create hype. The more mysterious looking this black medicine is, the better." Liuyuan is so smart. Wang Fugui said excitedly, "We probably won't need to sell anything else in the future. One dosage of the black medicine per person will be enough to make us rich." Wang Fugui seemed to have sensed a great business opportunity. "Okay." Ren Xiaosu nodded. "Do as you deem fit. I don't know anything about doing business anyway. By the way, where's Chen Wudi? He headed out as soon as y'all went to school." Wang Fugui said, "I don't know where he went, but I couldn't locate him. Don't worry, though, he'll definitely be back when it's mealtime. He's extremely punctual." Ren Xiaosu was stunned. "He only remembers when it's time to eat." Wang Fugui hesitated for a moment before saying, "It's not that. He doesn't come back because he wants to eat." Ren Xiaosu was confused. "Didn't you just say that he'll definitely be back when it's time to eat? If it isn't to eat, why else would he be coming back?" A next moment later, Chen Wudi walked in from the outside with his arms full. Wang Fugui looked at the figure of Chen Wudi in a daze and said, "To bring us food." He heard Chen Wudi shout at the top of his voice, "Master, I'm back from alms begging." Ren Xiaosu was speechless. Ren Xiaosu saw a big bundle of food in his arms that included buns, Chinese burritos, and even a small bag of pickles. There was quite a large variety of food. But what Ren Xiaosu could not figure out was just how deeply immersed Chen Wudi was into his character. When Chen Wudi shoved all the food into Ren Xiaosu's arms, Ren Xiaosu was dumbfounded. "Where did you get so much food from?" Ren Xiaosu had been worried that Chen Wudi would consume too much of their food. But taking a glance, he realized just how self-sufficient Chen Wudi was. "I got it when I went begging for alms." Chen Wudi chuckled. "People just give food to you when you ask for it. Are they that generous?" Ren Xiaosu asked curiously. "They didn't give it to me for nothing. I said that I would help them subdue evil," Chen Wudi said. Ren Xiaosu was shocked. "Did you display your powers?" "No. Master, didn't you instruct me not to do so?" Chen Wudi explained. Finally, Ren Xiaosu heaved a sigh of relief. He was really worried Chen Wudi would get targeted by the other organizations. "Then how did you manage to get the food from them?" Chen Wudi thought for a while. "I took it by force." Ren Xiaosu was speechless. "Wait a minute." It seemed like this idea of begging for alms was also taught to Chen Wudi by him. At that time, Ren Xiaosu got Chen Wudi to seek out those refugees to beg alms from while they were escaping here. So Chen Wudi's definition of begging for alms was what Ren Xiaosu had taught to him back then? At this moment, Ren Xiaosu was a little worried the police officers from the Strongholds Public Order Division would rush in and take Chen Wudi away. As he wasn't entirely sure of how Chen Wudi had begged for alms, he didn't know whether his attempts would constitute robbery or not. Ren Xiaosu said earnestly, "You better not go out for the time being." "Why?" Chen Wudi asked. "First, we are not running out of food yet." Ren Xiaosu said. "Second, it's better that you keep a low profile for now." "Master, I can't. It's too boring at home. Pigsy and the others all have things to keep them busy with, but only I have nothing to do," Chen Wudi said aggrievedly. Ren Xiaosu was caught in a dilemma. "Then if you go out, you mustn't go around to beg for alms anymore, do you understand?" "Okay," Chen Wudi promised. He could ignore other people's words but not that of his masters. After Yang Xiaojun's reminder, Ren Xiaosu became even more worried the other organizations would target Chen Wudi, especially by that mysterious pyro company. It wouldn't be too bad if it were just the other organizations, but the pyro company seemed to be specifically targeting supernatural beings. But fortunately, this place was not the pyro company's territory. At this moment, Xiaohu walked in from outside. She waved at Ren Xiaosu to come over, saying, "Xiaosu, come look at the present that Big Sis bought for you." When Ren Xiaosu saw it, he was stunned. No one knew where Xiaohu had bought the bicycle from. But since she didn't know how to ride it, she had to push it back here with all her effort. "Big sister Xiaohu, why did you buy this thing? It can't be cheap, right?" Ren Xiaosu asked curiously. "It's fine, Big Sis still has some savings of her own. With this, it'll be easier for you to get to school in the future," Xiaohu said happily. It was as though she had received a gift herself. The moment she pushed the bicycle out into the backyard, Yan Liuyuan went up to her. "How do you ride this thing? Wouldn't it be difficult to balance on with only 2 wheels?" Ren Xiaosu asked, "Does anyone know how to ride this?" As the group of people gathered around the bicycle, Wang Fugui and Xiaohu both shook their heads. Ren Xiaosu tried riding on it several times but found that he could not grasp the concept. He thought that maybe he should ask Zhongwu or Yang Xiaojin for some advice tomorrow. Ren Xiaosu walked over to his own seat, seemingly unaffected, and buried his head in a book. He was thinking that if he couldn't keep up with the lessons in class, he would have to start learning from scratch. Therefore, Ren Xiaosu got Wang Fugui to purchase some 10th and 11th grade textbooks for him yesterday so that he could start self-studying today. While he was studying by himself, Ren Xiaosu had a hunch that his fellow classmates seemed to know that something was about to happen. However, all of them tacitly chose to keep it from him. And whatever that was going to happen was definitely not going to be in Ren Xiaosu's favor. There were 4 periods scheduled in the afternoon, 1 for Chinese, 1 for geography, 1 for mathematics, and 1 for physics. The Chinese class was still manageable, but Ren Xiaosu still couldn't understand anything that was taught in math and physics. Meanwhile, Ren Xiaosu felt the geography class was a little odd. He was startled to discover that what was being taught in the lessons were totally different from what he knew. Moreover, the entire subject seemed to be very loosely strung together. There wasn't even a complete map to be found in the geography textbook, and the topics only touched on matters found in the vicinity of Stronghold 109, as well as some knowledge of economic geography 1. Ren Xiaosu guessed that some of the global information in this stronghold might have been lost. Just like how the Li Consortium would never share their topographical maps with the Qing Consortium, the other consortiums would maintain secrets from each other. Ren Xiaosu was different from most students. A normal student would only seek to learn whatever knowledge was presented in the textbooks. But when Ren Xiaosu read them, he would consider the geopolitics affecting the different consortiums. Suddenly, Ren Xiaosu had a realization. He knew he could no longer look at problems from the point of view of a normal student. Ren Xiaosu inadvertently turned his head at this moment and saw Cao Yuki looking pale. It was as though she were enduring some sort of pain while holding her belly with her left hand. At this moment, the long-awaited palace finally spoke again. "Quest, help out a classmate." Ren Xiaosu was starting to find the voice from the palace to be very endearing. After all, the palace always gave him a great gift whenever it spoke. Ren Xiaosu pondered it for a moment before asking Cao Yuki, "Do you have a stomachache?" Cao Yuki gave him a look but did not say anything, as though it were taboo to speak with him. Meanwhile, Ren Xiaosu was paying full attention to any possible reactions from the palace in his mind. As long as the quest wasn't completed yet, he wouldn't give up asking. "My fellow classmate, is it because you don't have toilet paper? I have some over here," Ren Xiaosu said. He was thinking that Cao Yuki had an upset stomach. Cao Yuki could not help but roll her eyes at him. "It's not an upset stomach." Oh! This was beyond Ren Xiaosu's understanding. "Then what's the matter? Are you sick? Why don't I send you to the hospital?" "Stop asking." Cao Yuki said impatiently, "What I have is incurable." "Incurable?" Ren Xiaosu was stunned. "Is it that serious?" Honestly, Cao Yuki was starting to regret being so hostile towards Ren Xiaosu. He was showing so much concern to her, yet she replied so harshly to him. As the saying goes, don't bite the hand that feeds you. They were ostracizing Ren Xiaosu due to his refugee status, mainly because some of these ideas had been instilled in them by their parents or simply out of fear. However, just as Cao Yuki was thinking of softening her tone, she suddenly saw Ren Xiaosu getting up to walk to the lectern. It gradually quieted down in the classroom as everyone looked at Ren Xiaosu. They were all waiting to see what he was up to. Ren Xiaosu went up to the lectern and said to his classmates with a face full of grief, "Everyone, our classmate Cao Yuki has been diagnosed with a terminal illness. I hope that since all of us are classmates, we can offer her our support by donating some money." Cao Yuki was confused. The students in the classroom were confused. All of the students' eyes landed on Cao Yuki as she nearly broke down on the spot. "What terminal illness are you talking about? It's just my Aunt Flo visiting. Don't you have any common sense?" Of course, she wasn't exactly sure if Ren Xiaosu really did not know, or if he was doing this on purpose. At this moment, the voice in Ren Xiaosu's mind palace said, "Quest complete. Awarded perfect skill duplication scroll." Ren Xiaosu's eyes lit up. It was completed just like that? And the reward was even a perfect skill duplication scroll. He really made a killing this time. He could copy skills from so many people in this stronghold. For instance, Yang Xiaojun and Luo Xinyu, both of them were supernatural beings with superpowers. No matter whose power he learned, it would be well worth it. But Ren Xiaosu did not really want to use this perfect skill duplication scroll on Yang Xiaojun. On one hand, he was much more interested in Luo Xinyu's power to travel through shadows. With it, he could easily take Yan Liuyuan and the others freely through the high walls of the stronghold. In that way, he would have the freedom of going in or out of the stronghold. This would be equivalent to him gaining the initiative to do whatever he wanted. Moreover, it would be really powerful to have a power that allowed him to cover distances in just one step when fighting battles. This would make enemies unprepared and defenseless. Also, Ren Xiaosu did not want to use this perfect skill duplication scroll on Yang Xiaojun because he knew she had many skills above master level, of which many were even nonsensical skills. If he randomly copied another skill like nursery rhyme singing, Ren Xiaosu would have nowhere to cry. He had discovered the previous time when learning Su Xianchu's power that if the other party did not have a master level and above skill on them, the skill duplication scroll would automatically choose to learn their superpowers instead. Therefore, from a risk-reward point of view, it was a better choice to learn from Luo Xinyu. During the next class intermission, the incident that happened in Ren Xiaosu's class spread to the class next door. Ren Xiaosu saw Yang Xiaojun standing in the hallway when he went out for a breather. She was wearing a cap and leaning against the railings in the hallway while looking at Ren Xiaosu. Cool and composed initially, Yang Xiaojun started trembling uncontrollably. "Go ahead and laugh if you want," Ren Xiaosu said calmly. "Ha ha ha," Yang Xiaojun laughed as she returned to her classroom. Ren Xiaosu was left alone as he gazed out at the school's athletic grounds. This was the first time Ren Xiaosu had witnessed Yang Xiaojun laughing so happily. For some reason, Ren Xiaosu felt that instead of trying to get along with those classmates, he had been better off working together and guarding against Yang Xiaojun in the wilderness. When the bell rang, Ren Xiaosu turned around and walked back into class. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps and chattering came from outside the class. It sounded like a group of people were heading to their classroom. Cao Yuki revealed a joyful look as she seemed to know what was about to happen. The homeroom teacher of their class appeared at the classroom door. He waved to Ren Xiaosu, who was inside the classroom, and said, "Ren Xiaosu, come outside for a while." The homeroom teacher deliberated for a moment before saying, "These are some of the parents of your classmates. It's like this, everyone has mentioned how you might have brought in germs from outside the stronghold, so it's everyone's wish that you consider transferring to another school." Ren Xiaosu wondered, Transfer? Transfer to where? With this matter exposed, there probably wouldn't be another school willing to accept him, right? A male student's parents said, if no schools are willing to accept you, you should stop going to school. It won't be very nice if everyone's safety gets affected all because of one person. Ren Xiaosu gave a mental sigh. All of this was probably within Yang Xiaojun's expectations, so it was no wonder she said the stronghold held a subconscious ostracism of the refugees and that it would be even harsher than he could imagine. Only when he saw these parents appearing here that he realized why his classmates had all kept quiet when they saw him. They had probably gone home last night and told their parents about this, resulting in the parents immediately deciding to come down to school together so they could force him to drop out of school. To these parents, Ren Xiaosu was nothing but a refugee. With so many of them stepping forward regarding this matter, the school would have no choice but to accede to their demands. Nowadays, as long as you dared to make a scene, there wasn't anything that couldn't be solved. Ren Xiaosu looked at the parents and said, and if I don't want to transfer schools? Honestly, these parents would have been dead if this were the wilderness. The rules of the wilderness were much simpler than in here. It was much more direct. However, the parents did not care about Ren Xiaosu. They looked at the homeroom teacher and said loudly, if you people don't make him transfer schools, how are you going to answer for it when an epidemic spreads? Furthermore, all of the resulting medical expenses will have to be borne by you. If you don't compensate, we'll sue you in court. Ren Xiaosu was contemplating this. He had once encountered the term court while studying in the town school and knew it was a place that presided over justice and fairness. However, there was never a place like that in town. He never could have expected that the first time a term like court would get associated with him would be over a lousy matter like this. The students had quietly walked out of the classroom as well. They were watching the conversation happening over here because they were also hoping to find out how this matter would get resolved. The 12th grade homeroom teacher was in a pickle. The teacher of the academic affairs office yesterday had told him before that Ren Xiaosu was related to Liu Yuan. Who could have thought that the student enrolled by Liu Yuan would turn out to be a refugee? The homeroom teacher thought that maybe he should pass the buck. He said softly to the parents, this student's admission was arranged for by Liu Yuan. Why don't you all go and speak to him instead? The parents looked at one another. They did not know about this prior to being told. If they had known that Ren Xiaosu was enrolled in school by Liu Yuan, they probably wouldn't have taken on such a threatening tone. But before they thought of how to handle it, a person suddenly squeezed through the crowd of people. When Ren Xiaosu turned around to see who it was, he discovered it was Zhang Wu. Zhang Wu looked at the parents and said, what are you trying to do? We're not trying anything. A parent said, we can't possibly have our children attend school with a refugee, can we? Why not? Zhang Wu got so angry her face flushed red. Aren't all of us people? Who says a refugee will definitely spread diseases? Did any of your children get sick after returning home last night? The parents seemed to back off a little at the mention of this. They didn't, but I've heard people in the stronghold fell sick. You heard? Zhang Wu raised her voice a little. Just because you heard about something gives you the right to destroy the future of a student. What future does a refugee have? The parents were also beginning to get angry. Who the hell do you think you are? I'm a teacher of this school. Zhang Wu said. Ren Xiaosu's homeroom teacher had already stopped speaking. He was so happy someone had stepped in for him. A parent said, since you're a teacher, why are you arguing with us over a refugee? I don't know about any refugees or stronghold residents. Zhang Wu stood her ground and said, all I know is that he is a student. As Ren Xiaosu watched, he suddenly felt that Zhang Wu was stubbornly cute and even a little silly. But if it weren't for this persistence and steadfastness, Ren Xiaosu would not have helped her when they were still wandering in the wilderness. If it weren't for Ren Xiaosu's help, Zhang Wu and her students would probably have died out there. Ren Xiaosu felt a little touched, because he had finally seen something positive in someone in this troubled world. Before that, there was also Wang Fugui and Xiaoyu. Chen Wudi would probably count as half, while there was no need to mention Yan Liuyuan. What Yan Liuyuan and he had was as good as a sibling relationship. A parent suddenly said, "Since you're protective of him, why don't you let him go to your class?" Zhang Wu said without any hesitation, "That was what I came over for. I'll go and apply for Ren Xiaosu to transfer to our class right away." A voice sounded from the crowd. "I'm also going with you to apply to transfer to your class." Ren Xiaosu turned to look and was astounded to discover it was Yang Xiaojun who had spoken. When one of the parents heard Zhang Wu say that, they sneered. "As a teacher, you're really irresponsible about what you say. You might be willing to let him into your class, but will your students' parents allow it?" Zhang Wu hesitated for a moment before saying in a soft voice, "My students no longer have parents. All I need to do is seek their consent." This point hit Zhang Wu's soft spot. The happiness her students experienced after escaping from death had slowly turned into longing for their families. This was a pain that could never be separated from any disasters. All they could do was to hide it within themselves until the pain slowly lessened. Suddenly, a hubbub occurred beyond the crowd. 20-something students walked next to Zhang Wu. "Teacher, you don't need our consent to let Ren Xiaosu join our class. We'll support you and support Ren Xiaosu as well." The other students from the other class muttered, "Why are you guys siding with a refugee so much?" One of Zhang Wu's students said in a serious tone, "Side with him? We're not siding with or helping him. And he doesn't need our help either. You people are utterly clueless about the outside world. I find it to be really sad." In the eyes of Zhang Wu's students, they were merely standing up for Ren Xiaosu out of gratitude. If not for him, they would not even be here sitting in class and attending school. The number of people who made the getaway was in the thousands. But how many of them made it to Stronghold 109? What they remembered most about the escape was what Zhang Wu had said to them, "As long as we follow that young man, we'll definitely get there." In the end, they did manage to survive. All of the students' parents standing in the corridor were stunned. This had turned out far too different from what they had imagined. Honestly, if their roles had been reversed and they were placed in Ren Xiaosu's position, they believed no one would bother to speak up for them. Yang Xiaojun folded her arms and stood in the hallway as she watched the situation with interest. She might have guessed this would happen, but little could she have expected such a conclusion. The parents were a little embarrassed. Right now, they did not know what they should do. Meanwhile, the students were all looking at Ren Xiaosu in a daze. All of them were wondering what kind of backing this teenager had. Zhang Wu looked at Ren Xiaosu's actual homeroom teacher and said, "We'll have Ren Xiaosu transfer to our class, so why don't you handle the paperwork with the school?" This was most welcome to the homeroom teacher. He said with a smile, "Sure, I'll get to it in a bit." But before he could heave a sigh of relief, he heard Zhang Wu say coldly, "A teacher who can't even protect his own students? I feel ashamed for you. You didn't even put in a good word for him." The homeroom teacher choked until he turned purple, yet he couldn't come up with a retort to what Zhang Wu said. When Ren Xiaosu returned to the classroom to retrieve his belongings and got ready to change classes, he went over to Cao Yuki. Cao Yuki suddenly had an ominous feeling. Ren Xiaosu took a deep breath and said earnestly, "Get well soon." Yang Xiaojun felt like she had never had such a good laugh in years as she did today. It was as though all of the funny moments over the years were concentrated on Ren Xiaosu. However, she did not hang around long and went to pack her belongings as well. On the way to the new class, Zhang Wu said to Ren Xiaosu, "If you have any difficulties in your classes, you can let me know. I can give you remedial lessons on any subjects you don't understand." Ren Xiaosu considered it for a moment before saying, "There's indeed something that I would like to seek advice from Ms. Zhang." "Which subject?" Zhang Wu asked. Ren Xiaosu froze. "Cycling." Zhongwu stopped in her tracks and looked quietly at him. She had thought Ren Xiaosu might ask her for help on things like math or other subjects, but never could she have expected that he would want to learn how to ride a bicycle. He was truly a young man who always surprised others. Yang Xiaojun walked beside Ren Xiaosu and asked, "You bought a bicycle?" Ren Xiaosu gave her a look. "What are you playing at? Shouldn't we be trying our best not to be in the same class, Ren Xiaosu?" Yang Xiaojun smiled gleefully and said, "I don't mind. Who cares if you mind or not?" Ren Xiaosu wanted to curse at her. Due to switching classes, Ren Xiaosu and Yang Xiaojun ended up becoming desk mates. Even Ren Xiaosu had to accept this was probably fate at work. After afternoon classes, Zhang Wu went with Ren Xiaosu, Yan Liuyuan and Wang Dalong to take the streetcar back to the grocery store. While on the way to meet them, Yan Liuyuan seemed to have heard about what happened in school as well, so he thanked Zhang Wu the moment he saw her. This was in gratitude to Zhang Wu for helping his brother out of a tight spot. Frankly, Yan Liuyuan was really starting to dislike the people in the stronghold more and more, with the exception of Zhang Wu and her students. Oh, and of course, not including Yang Xiaojun either. Back at the shop, Ren Xiaosu couldn't wait as he made Zhang Wu teach everyone how to ride a bicycle. Ren Xiaosu asked everyone to learn how to cycle since it was an extremely useful skill. Ren Xiaosu thought that if they had to travel between the strongholds, a motor vehicle would definitely be their first choice of transport. But the problem was that there was no way for them to get their hands on one. Besides, motor vehicles required gas to operate and had other limitations as well, while they also had no idea who they could learn driving from. So the next best available option would be a bicycle as their first choice mode of transport. It wasn't difficult to repair, could be used for a long time, and was also easy to learn. More importantly, it was something they could afford to buy right now. The bicycles cost around 3,000 yuan in the stronghold and were considered to be in the range of luxury goods. Therefore, it could be seen just how determined Xiao was when she decided to gift one to Ren Xiaosu. Most people could not bear to spend so much money like that, and Xiao was even the type who would often haggle for up to half an hour just to get a 20-cent discount on her grocery shopping trips. The group of them watched as Zhang Wu effortlessly rode the bicycle through the street in front of the shop. Chen Wudi even squatted down in front of the shop, looking extremely determined to learn how to cycle. Zhang Wu explained to them the basics of riding a bicycle. She said, "To ride a bicycle, you first have to master your balance. On top of that, your eyes must not be focused on what's in front of the bicycle, but what's ahead of you. Overcome your fear." While Ms. Zhang Wu was demonstrating, she exhibited the unique charm of a mature woman. When Zhang Wu finished the demonstration, everyone went over one by one to get some hands-on practice. What surprised Ren Xiaosu was that Yan Liuyuan managed to learn it on the spot. This kid was able to ride the bicycle steadily after just seeing it get demonstrated once. And what surprised Ren Xiaosu even more was that he himself was unable to master it. To be precise, it wasn't that he couldn't master it. In reality, learning how to ride a bicycle was just a matter of time. The truth was, most people would take several days or even longer to learn how to ride a bicycle. So Ren Xiaosu's progress was considered normal. But what Ren Xiaosu could not accept was that even Chen Wudi the fool had successfully mastered cycling. This made Ren Xiaosu look somewhat bad, but he was absolutely not going to admit it was his problem. Ren Xiaosu mused over it for a while before turning to Xiao. "Big sister Xiao, is there something wrong with the bicycle you bought?" Big sister Xiao covered her mouth and giggled. She wasn't angry at him. If both Liuyuan and Chen Wudi could ride the bicycle, what could be wrong with it? However, she seemed to have realized Ren Xiaosu had a habit of passing the buck one. Of course, she didn't know the previous person Ren Xiaosu had pushed the blame onto was now carrying an invisible cauldron on his back and trekking through the wilderness. Zhang Wu smiled and said, "Actually, it takes several days to learn how to ride a bicycle. You'll master it in a few days." As Zhang Wu's voice trailed off, a loud explosion boomed in the distance. It sounded like a bomb had gone off in the stronghold. Could it have been Yang Xiaojin's doing? Ren Xiaosu subconsciously thought the bomb Yang Xiaojin had built might have been detonated. But upon analyzing the sound in greater detail, he realized it wasn't so. He ordered Chen Wudi and Yan Liuyuan, "Arm yourselves with the pistols and close the shop's doors. Don't open them before I get back. Ms. Zhang, please stay and hide here for the time being in case anything happens." Ren Xiaosu then proceeded to leave the shop. As a supernatural being, he couldn't stand on the sidelines. He had to go and see for himself to understand the situation firsthand. Only then could he make the right decisions. Only by doing so could he ensure that everyone could carry on surviving. The location of the explosion should be several kilometers where they were. But with Ren Xiaosu's current speed, he should be able to get there in a matter of minutes. While Ren Xiaosu was making his way there, he noticed a building that was about a dozen stories tall. This was one of the tallest structures in the stronghold, and it looked like it would make a good spot for him to observe the battle that had broken out. Someone suggested that one of the factories might have caught fire, and the explosions were caused by the flammable substances within. But Ren Xiaosu did not think it was as simple as that, especially not during a tense period like this. As a matter of fact, Stronghold 109 was currently a gathering place for a large number of dangerous people. When Ren Xiaosu arrived at the foot of the high-rise building, he saw the logo of the Li Consortium's bank slapped on it. But he wasn't worried about that right now. He headed straight for the top by climbing up the facade of the building. But when he got to the edge of the rooftop and was about to clamber over, the dark muzzle of a gun pressed against his forehead. Ren Xiaosu froze. He never expected someone else would be up here. He looked up and saw the familiar figure of someone wearing a cap. Yang Xiaojin also looked surprised to see Ren Xiaosu up here. It had to be said she felt the two of them really seemed to have some sort of a strange unspoken understanding. The things they did and choice in locating a commanding position coincided with each other. However, Yang Xiaojin had the absolute high ground at this moment. She smiled and said, "What are you doing here at this hour? Didn't both of us get attracted by the sound of the explosion?" Ren Xiaosu said calmly. He could be sure now that the explosion wasn't set off by Yang Xiaojin. After all, it was still quite a distance from here to where the explosion had occurred. Ren Xiaosu tried to dodge away from the barrel of Yang Xiaojin's gun. But he was sure that based on her marksmanship, he would absolutely have no chance of avoiding it. Yang Xiaojin said with a smile, "Let me ask you again, is the dagger yours or mine?" Ren Xiaosu answered in seriousness, "It's mine." Yang Xiaojin was speechless. Honestly, Ren Xiaosu hadn't expected Yang Xiaojin to still be thinking about the dagger at this time. Likewise, Yang Xiaojin never thought Ren Xiaosu would still claim ownership over the dagger in such circumstances. "Come on up then." Yang Xiaojin holstered her gun away with a cold expression. She did not know how to deal with Ren Xiaosu anymore. She had only pointed her gun at him to scare him, but she wouldn't have pulled the trigger for real. Ren Xiaosu climbed onto the rooftop and patted the dust off himself. What happened? Why was there such a loud noise? The pyro company is playing with fire. Yang Xiaojin explained. An awakened supernatural being approached them to sell his blood. He thought the pyro company was really some kind of a charity organization, but they made a move on him on the spot. They tried to capture him but didn't succeed. So the pyro company is really using the 1 million yuan reward as bait. Ren Xiaosu was really glad he had not gone to sell his blood and had even stopped Chen Wudi from doing so. He sighed and said, "But how did the pyro company fail in their attempt to capture that person? For a company as powerful as them, would they really have attempted to catch a supernatural being without extreme preparation? Well, they succeeded at first. They injected a large dose of anesthetics into the supernatural being, but they never thought he would have a companion with him." Yang Xiaojin explained, those two supernatural beings must have known each other beforehand and made a plan to rescue the other person in case one of them got into trouble with the Pyro Company. You can call it a simple alliance of sorts. This time, Ren Xiaosu understood. So even the supernatural being who went to sell his blood was prepared. He chuckled and said, "Then the Pyro Company has fucked up. Isn't this a good opportunity to pull a heist on them? Don't look down on the Pyro Company." Yang Xiaojin shook her head. The fighting force known as Dawn that operates under the company is extremely strong even if only 5 of their men show up in the stronghold. Those two supernatural beings have survived until now only because Fatty Luo from the Qing Consortium is also messing around out there. Luo Lan. Ren Xiaosu said in surprise, what does he have against the Pyro Company? Qing Zhen set up an ambush and captured over 100 members of the Pyro Company last year. Yang Xiaojin said, the Pyro Company and the Qing Consortium are actually adversaries, the type that will take it to the bitter end with each other. This puzzled Ren Xiaosu a little. What has Qing Zhen got against them? The Pyro Company used this method to bait one of Qing Zhen's soldiers who had been on leave. The operation was successful, and it was so covered that Qing Zhen only discovered it after the Pyro Company had withdrawn their presence, Yang Xiaojin explained. However, Qing Zhen managed to rescue that soldier during the ambush he conducted. Ren Xiaosu was speechless. What kind of a timeline was that? It was way too messy. Were the struggles between the corporations really that intense? Ren Xiaosu couldn't help but ask, then why did y'all target Qing Zhen? You're obviously against the Pyro Company, so wouldn't that make the enemy of your enemy your friend? Yang Xiaojin gave him a look. Enemies are enemies. We don't form alliances. It was at this moment Ren Xiaosu realized that Yang Xiaojin's organization had very clear goals or principles. Whoever encroached on their interests would probably get added to their hit list. You're getting curious, aren't you? A big sniper rifle appeared in Yang Xiaojin's hands. Her cheek stuck to the side of the menacing rifle in her hands as she looked into the distance through a telescopic scope nearly as thick as her arms. The Pyro Company and Qing Zhen are both trying to control something they're absolutely incapable of controlling. Whether they succeed or fail, it'll still be disastrous. Ren Xiaosu finally understood. So the mission statement of Yang Xiaojin's organization was to spread love and peace. What nonsense! Ren Xiaosu absolutely did not believe anyone would be that selfless in this world. At this very moment, Ren Xiaosu saw countless combat troops from the Li Consortium arrive at the battle site. They quickly closed off all the intersections and set up barricades and pillboxes around the area. Then, heavily armed platoons infiltrated into the middle of the battlefield in an unusually cautious manner. Meanwhile, the location Yang Xiaojin had chosen happened to fall just outside of the lockdown perimeter. Ren Xiaosu knew he had been lucky in choosing this place to watch the battle from, but Yang Xiaojin probably did not depend on her luck for this. Instead, she must have known about the standard operating procedures of the Li Consortium's troops before deciding on this spot. Ren Xiaosu asked, the Li Consortium seems to have arrived a little late. Isn't this supposed to be their home field? They have something more important to protect right now. Yang Xiaojin said calmly, anything that does not constitute a threat isn't going to bother them. Quiet now. Yang Xiaojin's breathing then became shallow. Ren Xiaosu looked where her rifle was pointing and was surprised to see that a manhole cover outside the Li Consortium's perimeter had been pushed open from underneath. The first person who climbed out of it happened to be Luo Lan. He saw Fatty Luo panting as he climbed out of the sewers, followed by Tang Zhou and the rest of their men. Tang Zhou was even carrying an unconscious person on his shoulder. They were running towards a vehicle that was parked nearby, and it looked like they were planning to use it to escape. Distance: 651 meters. Wind speed: half value, 0.4 meters per second. For a sniper, there were 3 types of wind: 1, full value, half value, and no value. A full value wind meant it would affect the bullet's trajectory. Such winds would come from 2, 3, 4, and 8, 9, 10 o'clock. But for wind coming from 1, 5, 7, and 11 o'clock, the wind's effect on the bullet would be halved, thus being referred to as half-value wind. No-value wind was just as its name suggested. It did not have any effect on the bullet's trajectory. Such winds would blow from 6 and 12 o'clock. As Ren Xiaosu finished speaking, he watched Yang Xiaojun make a rapid calculation of the compensation required for the shot. Ren Xiaosu wondered, "Do you intend to kill Luo Lan?" With a loud bang, Yang Xiaojun answered Ren Xiaosu's question. The unexpected sound of the gunfire cracked through the night sky and nearly made Ren Xiaosu jump. He looked at where Luo Lan was and discovered that Yang Xiaojun had not hit him. Instead, the shot hit the curbside off-road vehicle Luo Lan and his men had prepared. Did she miss? A moment later, the vehicle exploded. Ren Xiaosu realized Yang Xiaojun had not missed. She was aiming for the off-road vehicle's gas tank all along and had even used an incendiary bullet to do so. Only this special type bullet was capable of igniting a gas tank, and no sniper would be so bored as to use incendiary bullets to snipe individual soldiers. Luo Lan, who had yet to reach the vehicle, was furious. Who the fuck did that? He was so close to getting in the vehicle and making their escape, but it ended up getting blown up by someone instead. Who could be lunatic enough to do something like that? Without a vehicle, how were they going to get away? But he did not hesitate. Knowing that the noise here would quickly attract the Li Consortium's people, he decisively led Tang Zhou and the others back into the sewers. Yang Xiaojun stowed her rifle swiftly as Ren Xiaosu watched helplessly. He said, "You came out at this hour of the night just to destroy Luo Lan's vehicle and make things difficult for them." Yang Xiaojun gave him a look. "That was so fun." "Fun? What was so fun about that, you crazy woman?" Ren Xiaosu watched as the Li Consortium's troops started heading over here from afar to encircle the area. It was at this time that Yang Xiaojun smiled and said, "Good luck." A door then opened up in the shadows beside Yang Xiaojun. She held the hand that reached out of the shadow door and disappeared from Ren Xiaosu's sight. That hand was probably Luo Xinyu's, right? Ren Xiaosu did not feel that good anymore. Again. Yang Xiaojun was not only making things difficult for Luo Lan and his men. After she revealed their location by firing that shot, she also implicated Ren Xiaosu as well. Right then, Ren Xiaosu heard someone shout, "There's a sniper atop the bank." Her, how fucking fun. He immediately turned around and climbed down the building. If he didn't leave now, he would get surrounded by the Li Consortium in no time. When Ren Xiaosu arrived back at the shop, he was drenched in sweat. He had sprinted all the way back here. Even with his current fitness, he still found it quite unbearable. But he did not go in through the front door. Instead, he jumped into the backyard from the roof. Ren Xiaosu discovered Wang Fugui and the others were still waiting for him out in the yard. Yan Liuyuan was the first one to come and circle around Ren Xiaosu. He was only able to set his mind at ease after confirming that Ren Xiaosu did not get injured. "Bro, what happened?" The Pyro Company clashed with some supernatural beings. The Pyro Company's intentions are indeed bad. A supernatural being went there to sell his blood but fell into their trap, Ren Xiaosu explained to them, simplifying the events. Zhang Wu, who was standing nearby, did not say anything at all. As someone who had fled to Stronghold 109 with Ren Xiaosu, she figured out that Ren Xiaosu was not a normal person at the very least. Moreover, since Chen Wudi claimed Ren Xiaosu was his master, then the master of a supernatural being should also be a supernatural being. In reality, Zhang Wu did not know much about supernatural beings. She could only logic out the situation. Ren Xiaosu looked at Zhang Wu and said, "Ms. Zhang, there shouldn't be any danger around here. Why don't I have Chen Wudi send you back first?" Zhang Wu nodded. But at this moment, someone knocked on the door to the store. Ren Xiaosu frowned. The store had been closed for 2 hours now, so who could be knocking on the door? He went up to the door and peeked through the peephole and discovered that the people outside were Luolan and his men. Ren Xiaosu opened the door. He looked strangely at Luolan. "Why do you smell so bad?" Luolan led Tang Zhou and the others into the store. But he seemingly did not want to tell the truth. "I tripped." "Bring out your black medicine, I have someone here who's injured." Ren Xiaosu pretended to ask, "What injuries?" "I heard an explosion in the stronghold just now. Could it be related to y'all?" "Don't spout nonsense." Luolan nearly jumped. "We just tripped over." In fact, Luolan also knew what he said would not deceive anyone. For someone as smart as Ren Xiaosu, how could he possibly believe the lies he was making up? But Luolan had no other choice. He couldn't admit to it, right? Ren Xiaosu was amused. He purposely said to spite Luolan, "Did y'all walk here? Where's your car?" Luolan felt persecuted. "I sent it in for maintenance." "What does maintenance mean?" Ren Xiaosu asked curiously. "Things like cars require maintenance after a period of driving." Luolan gave him a look. "You don't even know something like that." "I've never driven a car before." Ren Xiaosu chuckled. Then Luolan gave a look to Ren Xiaosu. "Don't speak a word about what happened tonight. Otherwise, I'll reveal that Chen Wudi is a supernatural being." "Don't you worry," Ren Xiaosu said in irritation as he took the black medicine out. He scrutinized the unconscious person and wondered if it might have been one of the two supernatural beings involved in tonight's incident. Luolan did not dare bring this supernatural being to a hospital, so he had to come over to Ren Xiaosu's place. The two of them had dealt with each other before. Even though Luolan was pissed off at Ren Xiaosu, he still found it more reliable to find Ren Xiaosu at this time. Suddenly suspicious, Luolan asked, "Ren Xiaosu, why are you drenched in sweat? Were you outside just now?" "No." Ren Xiaosu pointed at the bicycle in the yard and said, "I was just learning how to ride a bike. Ms. Zhang came over specifically to teach us." "Oh." Luolan nodded. "Ms. Zhang, you came over to teach them how to cycle?" Zhang Wu smiled and nodded. "Yes, they've never ridden a bike before." Zhang Wu acted very natural, and there were no signs she was putting on an act.